gotta take. But Steve's in the live with the sources on display. No rumors, no drama, no somebody said. Just what's proven, what's solid, what's actually been read. He's calling out the claims, separating real from fake. Cutting through confusion like a clean earthquake. Current events, yeah, he's got that mapped. If it's not verified, it's getting unwrapped. So drop your questions, drop your doubts. Steve's here sorting all the truth from the cloud. No panic, no spin, no agenda to flatter. Just one simple rule, facts still matter. Facts still matter, say it louder, say it louder. Truth cuts through all the noise, that's power. Steve's in the chat with the real-time data. Drop that spin, we'll fact check it later. Facts still matter, yeah, we're keeping receipts. Headlines fine, but we read past the tweets. If it's news, if it's now, Steve breaks it down. Cause the truth hits different when the facts come out.
Good morning, everyone. Happy February. Happy Black History Month. Thanks for joining us. It's Groundhog Day as well. Ain't that the truth? Thank you for being here. We appreciate you all very much. We know you got many choices to make every single day. And we are so grateful that you always choose to spend some time with us. So thank you in advance. You know the drill. Tapping is clapping. Liking is loving. Sharing is caring. There is a gifting goal today. We are not the only ones, apparently, that get these restrictions. But if you all can help us out by taking care of that gifting goal ASAP, that'd be great. We are crowdfunded here. You want to support the channel. Best way to do that is through the various things at Factsstillmatter. We are streaming on YouTube and Twitch. If you've not yet subscribed there, please consider doing so. Also, join our Discord. You can find the link in the link tree that's in my bio, or if for some reason the link does not work, just copy it, paste it in a URL, and that should open it, or reach out to one of our amazing moderators. Heading over to the merch store. The link is also in the link tree in my bio. It's Facts HQ. You'll find a couple things in there. Our friend Eve has her own online shop now. You'll find a link to that. You'll also find a link to my son's merch store, which is Tobias, and also ours has a whole variety of information and products in there, including we are dedicating the sale of items that we've built and or made to support our friends in Minneapolis. We're going to talk about Minneapolis in just a second because there's lots of ketchup throwing up against the wall because of something that we'll get into it in just a minute. Anyway, canmn.org is an organization that we're supporting. Any and all proceeds from the sales of items specific to Minneapolis and Minnesota will go directly to that organization. I think we're over $100 raised so far, or $100 in proceeds so far. So do all the things. Thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it. Okay, so obviously, we're going to get into the new releases of last week, and I'm going to be careful how to navigate through this today, just because of obviously suppression and the like. We've made a decision here in our space that we're not going to get into the salacious claims, and we're not going to go through the gory details because there are so many. We made that decision because we don't want to re-traumatize anyone. We don't want to have to constantly lean on the trigger warning. We don't want to create we don't want to bring back bad memories for anyone. So instead, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how big this network is, because there are more names connected to this, and we've got numerous contradictions on top of contradictions on top of contradictions. So that's going to be our focus today. So I think the thing that I really want to talk about, consider this my opening monologue, if you will. We've watched the evolution of the Jeffrey files. And by the way, it is day 45 since the Department of Justice has still not abided by federal law and released everything. So they've broken 3 laws. 1, they were supposed to release everything by the 19th of December. That's why they're 45 days late. 2, the names of anybody non-survivor were supposed to not be redacted. Any people potentially alleged to have committed these crimes, allegations, yes, those names were supposed to be released. And not redacted. Well, that's not the case. And in addition to that, any explanation of redaction was supposed to be included, and none of that has happened as well. So Pam Bondi and Donald Trump's Department of Justice has broken the law numerous times until the clock continues. Anyway, we've watched the evolution of this story, like leading up to the election. The promise that Trump made to his base was that we are going to release the e-files. We're going to expose the global cabal. So everybody on that side, in fact, most people, I think, again, this shouldn't be a politically divisive issue. Everyone wanted it exposed. Now, we know legal precedents involved, why things couldn't be released at a certain time. It's irrelevant to me at this point. We are where we are. We're on February the 2nd, 2026. And then we get to the election, and he wins. And then more talk about releasing the Kennedy files and the JFK files and the Martin Luther King files, 9/11, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then more Jeffrey. And then as the year progressed, right, you started to get little bits and drips and droves of information because of statute of limitations and because of requests from the oversight committee and because of claims being made and then survivors stepping forward, and then it became a Democratic hoax. So then people in his orbit were like, oh yeah, it's a Democratic hoax, it must be a hoax. And then we find out that it's not a hoax because we have survivor testimony. And then we have the infamous birthday card that comes out with Trump's drawing. And he said, it's not me, it's fake, it's fake news, and it's an alleged lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal. And then more people in his orbit said, well, that's fake too. And then we realize that it's not fake. So then he has to move away from that. Then we have Pam Bondi saying the files are on my desk. Then they weren't on her desk. Then they released everything. Then there was the timeline of the missing minute in their surveillance video from the prison. Then that was proven not true. Then we start to see his name over 2,000 times, his being the current president, over 2,000 times, more than anybody else in the initial batch that we got from the oversight committee through the Epstein estate. And then there was denials there. These aren't proof of anything. They're just they were friends. They were friends. And then more and more of these salacious claims. And then people are saying, well, those are just allegations. And then more salacious claims. And then saying that I wasn't here. And then claims about when the relationship ended, when the relationship started, the time of the day, etc., where they were, not on the flight logs, on the flight logs, never been to the island, on the island. You know, it's one thing after another. So the constant desire and almost need for people in his orbit, especially his most loyal and fervent supporters, there is no line. It doesn't matter. I mean, don't forget, just last week, the question was, does a camera need to be in the room? And that's where this has come. This is where we're at now. Because people on the right were conditioned to believe that everyone else, other than the person who's in the files more than anyone, is guilty. So if the entire thing is a hoax and there's no one else involved and there are no crimes against girls and boys, now women and men, other than perpetrated by Ghislaine and by Jeffrey, then why do we care about bringing Bill Clinton in to testify in front of Congress? If that's the case, see, this is the issue that we all should be talking about, because it's beyond, it's beyond, I don't need any more evidence, okay? I am going to approach this today. I want to throw this out there right now. Everything that I talk about today, if I do bring up some of the most salacious and horrible events, which I'm going to try really hard not to, are allegations. Okay, that's what this is. They are allegations. I think we all know that. Again, we don't have any evidence. See, that's my point, right? It's kind of my point. This is exactly my point. You don't have any evidence. See, Faded Signal, there'll never be enough evidence for you. That's exactly my point. There will never be enough evidence for you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you read. It doesn't matter the words that are coming out of people's mouth. There'll never be enough. And that's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. We believe survivors, okay? You can't have dozens, if not hundreds of survivor testimonies. Jane Doe's, Tiffany Doe's, Katie Johnson's, unnamed. You can't have all of them be untrue. Because if we compare that to the track record of the lies that have been told all summer long, including not just by Trump, Democrat hoax, I didn't know the guy, our relationship ended here. So here we are. People like Sasha Riley, and then people like Faded Signal. You don't have any evidence. Well, I don't know what to say about that. Because if that's where you want to live, then I can't help you. And no one can. No one can. So instead, where we sit now is that rich white men in a system built by people who look like me, to benefit people who look like me, to protect people who look like me, will never face justice. Because they're all protecting each other. And it is incredibly deep. And now they're mocking. Now they're mocking people because they know they've gotten away with it. There's so many little threads that we can pull on now because of things that have happened. Like, the situation with Doge and Social Security. Why are they so sure? We can talk about it from the election, but are they talking about wire? Do they want to look at banking transactions? How deep does it go? How deep does Steve Bannon's relationship and Elon Musk's relationship and Howard Lutnick's relationship? All these things, people in his cabinet, people in his circle, people connected to all levers of power, not only in government, but in entertainment, in sports. And Steve Tisch, the owner of the Giants, is now mentioned. Again, I'm going to go through this today, and these are allegations. I'm not going to get into the specifics. I'm not going to go through and reread and re-traumatize people. I'm just going to talk about how big the network is. How big the network is, right? You can't have it. You can't have it both ways. Those of you who are in denial. You can't sit here and say that everybody else, everyone in the files is guilty of something. So you've gone further than we've gone. We've said we know that these are allegations. We understand that. We want people to face justice. You've already convicted people. You've already convicted people. Everybody but the President of the United States. I don't know. It seems like it's that simple to me, right? It's because in everybody around him, everybody in his orbit, we can make connections to this. Now, here's the hard part when it comes to something like this, because affluent people swim in affluent circles, right? Now, just because someone is connected to these files does not mean that they are guilty of crimes. We all know that. But what I don't see are the same allegations against all the people that are listed. I see the allegations against the president. I see the allegations against Prince Andrew. I see the allegations against others. And what I don't see are allegations against other people that are connected to this. I see some strange behavior. We see some contradictions. So to me, it's one of a couple of things. Either they are absolutely connected to these crimes directly, and we have just not heard from these survivors, or they knew about it, and there's no way in hell that they could ever admit knowing about it because they didn't do anything. And in the new round of allegations, I'm going to be very careful how I say this. Very careful. Fuck it, I'm going to say it anyway. There are, in a lot of these new allegations, if these allegations point out to be true, I'm going to say it anyway. If a lot of these allegations that we just saw turn out to be true, then you could make a claim that the President of the United States is connected to serial unaliving. There, I said it. Allegations. If these allegations turn out to be true, and you read what most of us have read now, these FBI complaint forms, right? Then you can draw your own conclusions. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Again, yes, allegedly. Allegedly. That's what we're fighting for, right? Because, again, I don't give a shit who is connected to these crimes. But for 77 million people, not all, but so many to still be in absolute denial, then you're lost. Case in point. And when I talk about how big the circle is, this was from, let's see. This is from Saturday. I'm sorry, Friday. I am pleased to announce, I won't give the voice because I don't want to trivialize it. I am pleased to announce that I am nominating Kevin Warsh to be chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Kevin currently serves as the Shepard Family Distinguished Visiting Fellow in Economics at the Hoover Institution and lecturer at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. He is a partner of Stanley Druckenmiller At the Duquesne Family Office of LLC, Kevin received his AB from Stanford University and JD from Harvard Law. He's conducted extensive research in the field of economics and finance. Kevin issued an independent report to the Bank of England proposing reforms in the conduct of monetary policy in the UK. Parliament adopted the report's recommendations. Kevin Warsh became the youngest Fed governor ever at 35 and served as a member of the board of governors of the Fed from 2006 until 2011 as the Fed's representative to the Group 20, G20, as the board's emissary to the emerging and advanced economies of Asia. In addition, he was administrative governor managing and overseeing the board's operations, personnel, and financial performance. Prior to his appointment to the board from 2002 to 2006, Kevin served as special assistant to the president for economic policy and the executive secretary of the White House National Economic Council. Previously, Kevin was a member of the Mergers and Acquisitions Department at Morgan Stanley in New York, serving as vice president, executive director. I have known Kevin for a long period of time and have no doubt that he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best. On top of everything else, he is in central casting and he will never let you down. Congratulations, Kevin, President DJ2. Guess whose name showed up in the files last week? Fed chairman in the Jeffrey files, spending Christmas 2010 with Jeffrey at St. Bart's. This is after Jeffrey had pled guilty to trafficking and child prostitution. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you make the circle tight with as many people as you know that are connected to these things. And like I said, just because your name is in the file, let's be very, very clear. Let's be very, very clear here. I don't want to go on the record saying this. Just because your name is in the file, just because your name are connected to the people here, just because of that does not mean that I'm accusing you of anything. I want to be very, very clear about that. How many times can we call it a coincidence? How many times can the president say such glorious things, including in central casting, right? And sure enough, after Jeffrey was pled guilty to procuring a child for prostitution in 2008 and was a registered offender at that point, this meeting was for spending Christmas in 2010. So just 2 years afterwards, the new Fed chair nominee, Kevin Warsh, was hanging out with Jeffrey and others. How much more do we need? Literally, what is left to unpack? Is this just the big gaslight? Is this what this is? Just the big gaslight? And again, 45 days, the violation of the law. You're right. This is going to make a hell of a movie, unlike the Melania movie. And that's part of it too, right? These payoffs, these bribes. It goes so deep. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the evidence is. And I've got a video that I'm going to play for you guys in a little while about the Red Hat. And I think it's appropriate because this is one of those moments, right, where the entire movement connected to Trump was because either it was a QAnon inspired conspiracy theory, or it was just this the evangelical Christian right saying Donald Trump is our man who will unpack and expose the global cabal. They were right. It is a global cabal. I just don't think they expected the people that are now in it to be in it, at least connected to it. Again, allegations. And again, I want to be very careful. I know, central casting, right? How appropriate when you see that now. I want to be very careful. But if you read some of the FBI complaint forms, they talk about some of the horrific things that were done to girls and boys, including the ultimate penalty. If the allegations prove to be true, then the person in the White House, you can make a connection to serial unaliving. All right? So we're going to talk a little bit more today about that. Not that particular thing, but just how deep this connection goes. Yeah, I didn't see Joe Biden's name in there. I didn't see Barack Obama's name in there. Certainly did not. But that's how far the right is willing to go to defend What? What? Gonna need a security detail? Maybe. I don't even get you. Well, I'm not done because I'm gonna give some credit to ProPublica because we have 2 names of the officers involved in the death of Alex Preddy. I'm gonna read that as well. Knock on my door, I don't give a fuck. Biden and Hillary in the same document abusing child. Okay, right. Okay, sure. And you believe that, right? You believe that, Presley? You believe that? Biden and Hillary in the same document abusing a child? You believe that? You probably believe that, right? But you don't believe that Donald Trump, when we've got hundreds of entries connecting him to crimes. And I'm at the point now where I think that the president's the ringleader, to be honest. Mar-a-Lago was the hub. The Calendar Girl beauty pageants was one of the recruiting arms. The spa at Mar-a-Lago was like the incubator. So, yeah. Okay, let me water up here. I want people, I don't want people to ever forget that the federal government, thank you, under the Trump administration is doing everything they can to protect the people who allegedly committed these crimes. Everything they can. Everything. From lying to your face, from publishing documents claiming that you are then honoring or abiding by the law, then pulling them down, then getting called out for it, and then putting them up again. You release so many at once that you want to throw people off the scent. And there's been a lot of people that are doing a lot of really good work. Again, we're going to choose. I'm not going to go through and read some of the claims. I just think there's plenty of people that are out there that are doing it. Excuse me, I'm just choosing not to because it's just, I don't want to re-traumatize anyone because we believe survivors. So I certainly don't want to re-traumatize everyone. It's hard to cover this story without trying to connect some dots. So we'll do that today. I also want to talk a little bit about the situation with Don Lemon because the right does not want to talk about Victoria Rodriguez or Valentina Rodriguez, I think her name is, who is a Republican who ran for office in the South and who's numerous times has gone into churches that support the LGBTQI community and has caused a ruckus. She's not faced any charges. Nope. She's not been charged with violations of the FACE Act. She's not been indicted. Nope. Or the $14.8 billion in Medicaid, Medicare fraud, COVID-related spending in Texas. How come we're not sending ICE down there to investigate that? See, the problem is that the people on the right don't know or wouldn't care because it doesn't fit their narrative. They'll try to find some way to connect the dots and blame it on Biden. Yeah, because it's a red state. Okay, where to start? Let me just check in with my amazing family. Well, at first, why don't we get the petty out of the way? Because I saw this too. Let's get the petty out of the way. As you know, the Grammys were last night, and we've got people in our country that have food insecurity. We've got people who've lost health care. We've got mortgage bankruptcies up to like a 15-year high going back to the recession. We've got the PPI index up. We've got all kinds of economic disaster. And because our petty ass bitch president is so concerned about getting his feelings hurt that he has to use his social media outlet to get some stuff off his chest.
The Grammy Awards are the worst. Virtually unwatchable. CBS is lucky not to have this garbage litter their airwaves any longer. The host, Trevor Noah, whoever he may be, is almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel at the low ratings Academy Awards. Noah said incorrectly about me that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Jeffrey's Island. Wrong! I can't speak for Bill, but I have never been to Jeffrey's Island nor anywhere close, and until tonight's false and defamatory statement, never have been accused of being there, not even by the fake news media. Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight and get them straight fast. fast. It looks like I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of an MC and suing him for plenty. Ask little George Slopadopoulos and others how that all worked out. Also ask CBS. Get ready, Noah. I'm going to have some fun with you, President DJT.
Nice, right? Nice. Funny how he's taken every opportunity to talk about Bill Clinton being to the island, but then says that and Bill Clinton had spent time, that Noah said incorrectly about me that President Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on the island. Wrong. I can't speak for Bill, but I've never been to the island, nor anywhere close, and until tonight's false and defamatory statement, never have been accused of being there. Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. And by the way, what people on the right are now convinced of, just because of, they talk about the island a lot. Well, they were friends in New York, don't forget. They were friends in Palm Beach, don't forget. And the bulk of the allegations of crimes against Donald Trump don't even involve the island. They involve other places. So that will be something, again, that he'll focus on. He'll try to convince his base, hey, I wasn't at the island. And people like, there you go. He wasn't there. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. And I hope he does sue Trevor Noah. I really hope he does. Isn't it interesting that all these threats of these lawsuits? Go ahead. Because then that gives us discovery. And then we can get more information. Because you don't think that was intentional? You don't think it was intentional for Trevor Noah to slip in the island component? Of course it was. Of course it was intentional. Absolutely it was. And then that brings us back to the whole situation with the Clintons and not testifying in front of Congress. I don't give a shit if they do or not. But why the fuck should they? If the entire thing is a hoax, right? If the entire thing is a hoax, if the only person, the only people responsible, the only people who've abused girls and boys would be, Jeffrey and Ghislaine, then why do the Clintons have to be there? The reason I ask that question is because that's what our federal government has told us. Don't forget. Kash Patel told us this back in the spring when he's testified.
Information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
There's no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
So that's Kash Patel, right? That's Kash Patel. When there's at least 40 tested, at least 40 have testified, right? At least 40 that we know of, survivors' testimony. So it's interesting that you say that, Kash, that the files that you have, you mean the files that we're getting now when there's names of dozens of men, although a lot of them are still redacted against the law because you're part of this too, Kash. You're part of the cover-up as well. So you still want to tell us that no one else? So is that what you want us to believe? Remember what Kash Patel said there. And then you get Todd Blanche over the weekend. By the way, why was Pam Bondi not taking these questions? Why was she not the one standing there addressing the crowd? Because she can't. So this is Todd Blanche talking about the exact same thing when asked a question about who's responsible.
Men that abuse these girls, like, what does that mean? I don't understand what that means.
What?
Well, I mean, they're the men who abused the young women through Epstein's.
Look, we said in July, and it remains as true today as it was in July.
He was referring to Kash Patel's testimony over the summer. That's what he's referring. That's the time of the year that he's referring to. Okay.
And we, meaning the Department of Justice, about men who abused women. We would prosecute them.
Would you?
Right? We talked about the work that we're doing. That's why I said that. I said this earlier. There's this built-in assumption that somehow there's this hidden tranche of information of men that we know about that we're covering up or that we're choosing not to prosecute. That is not the case. I don't know whether there are men out there that abuse these women.
You don't know?
If we learn about information and evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But I don't think that the public or you all are going to uncover men within the Epstein files that abuse women, unfortunately.
Not going to find that? What? I'm sorry. What? So you and Kash Patel and others want the entire world to believe that the hundreds that we know of, hundreds of girls and boys, AKA fucking children, that all of them were assaulted only by Ghislaine and Jeffrey? Is that right? Is that what you want people to believe? And somebody just asked this question. Yeah, who's the arbiter for credible? Is that what you want us to believe? Because that's what you're telling people, Todd. Let's do it again. You don't have to believe me.
Abuse these girls. Like, what does that mean? I mean, I don't understand what that means.
Well, I mean, they're the men who abused the young women through Epstein's.
Look, we said in July, and it remains as true today as it was in July. If we had information, we meaning the Department of Justice, about men who abused women, we would prosecute them. Right? We talked about the work that we're doing. That's why I said that. I said this earlier. There's this built-in assumption that somehow there's this hidden tranche of information of men that we know about.
Who's hiding it? That
we're covering up or we're choosing not to prosecute. That is not the case. I don't know whether there are men out there that abuse these women.
You don't?
If we learn about information and evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But I don't think that the public or you all are going to uncover men within the Epstein files that abuse women, unfortunately.
I mean, what is there to say? Why then do you need to bring Bill Clinton in if you don't think he's committed any crimes? If there's no one in the files, if there's not enough evidence for you to investigate, then what are you bringing Bill Clinton in for? So are you just going to ignore the dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of complaints that came in, including complaints about some of the most graphic and salacious things that you could ever imagine, including, I'm not even going to say it. Then you've got names of people, you've got men connected to this network. There's one image where Jeffrey's in the middle and you've got arrows and lines pointed at people, and a lot of the images are redacted. This is what they want you to believe because they know this is the only hope they have, is to try to distract. I have a notification going off. Hang on one second. Let me just fix this. Everybody, please keep tapping. Please help us stay on the FYP today. This is going to be a complicated conversation. We'll do our best to get through it. Thank you all for being here. Respect your peace at all times, please. Let me just fix this real second. Okay. And then that brings me to this. This is my theory and my theory alone. Okay. Do you remember there was this reporting last week? And we're going to get back into this in a second. Let me see if I can find it. Hang on. One sec. So there's reporting by the New Republic, by The Nation, by ABC, by everybody's reported on this. Just last week, longtime JE associate Ghislaine Maxwell has revealed that more than 24 men received cushy plea deals with the government in a habeas petition filed last Tuesday aimed at potentially preemptively ending her prison sentence. Maxwell alleged that 29 friends of the notorious trafficker had been protected by the Justice Department by way of secret settlements. Those settlements were sent to 25 men and 4 potential co-conspirators. reported by the Daily Beast. The petition has prompted questions regarding the identities of the cloaked individuals and why the DOJ would offer them protection. Congress passed the Transparency Act on the 19th to force the executive branch to release any and all files. The bill stipulated that the Justice Department had 30 days to comply, but that deadline has since disappeared. We're at day 45 now. In the court filing, the DOJ offered vague placations that it expects to process the trove, which includes 2 million more documents in the near future, in the near term, which we got on Friday. There's still about, I think there's still as many that they've not yet released and they've released. Employees of the Justice Department are reportedly manually reviewing the pages. So far, the DOJ has released roughly 12,285 documents. Again, this was prior to the 3 million that were dropped on Friday. Now, I say that because we've got some additional information on that. The claim that Ghislaine Maxwell made is that there's 25 people that got this secret settlement. So Todd, so Cash, are you going to follow up on that lead? What did you learn when you sat down in the cozy confines of Club Fed with Ghislaine Maxwell? Todd, what did you learn from that? Did you learn the names of people? So you're going to literally tell the American public that there is, if we had information on crimes against children allegedly perpetrated by said individuals, then why are you not investigating it? The reason that you're not investigating it, Todd, is because you know full well that if you do investigate it, then without investigating the president, then your entire narrative has just gone. So this is where we sit, right? We sit now that no one has done it. No one's guilty. The only people that are guilty, one is in jail and one is dead. And that's it. So, 2008 non-prosecution agreement between JE and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, led by Alex Acosta. So the story goes is that the FBI federal authorities were about to seek indictments against some of these people, some of the names I'm about to read, and then others. And Acosta swooped in and offered that sweetheart deal. And as you know, Alex Acosta became Donald Trump's labor secretary. Again, I'm sure it's just a coincidence though, right? Just a coincidence. 2008 NPA between Jeffrey and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, led by Alex Acosta, granted immunity to Jeffrey, his named co-conspirators, and any potential co-conspirators. The deal, which allowed Epstein to avoid federal trafficking charges by pleading guilty to a lesser state charge, specifically shielded 4 women identified as his employees, assistants who were implicated in facilitating the abuse of minors. Sarah Kellen, formerly Kensington, described as a key participant who scheduled appointments and coordinated with the victims. She was later identified by a federal judge as knowing and criminally responsible participant in the conspiracy. She got away with it. Non-prosecution agreement. Leslie Groff, her name's all over numerous emails, personal assistant to Jeffrey. Adriana Ross, described as helping to organize Epstein's sexual encounters with minors. And then Nadia Marinkova, often cited as Marcinko, referred to in reports as having been brought into the operation by Jeffrey at a young age and then later assisting in recruiting others. No charges filed against them. So those are, my assumption is, since Ghislaine Maxwell said 4 people and then 25 men who took this secret settlement, are those the 4 people? It would seem to make sense. The draft indictment documents released in 2026 revealed a 56-page draft indictment from the mid-2000s that prepared charges against Jeffrey and 3 assistants with names redacted in that specific document for trafficking and conspiracy. I just gave you the names. The deal not only covered these 4 specific individuals, but also extended to any potential co-conspirators, effectively shutting down further federal investigation into Jeffrey's network at the time. Despite being named as a criminally responsible by a federal judge during Maxwell's 2022 sentencing, these individuals have not faced criminal charges related to the Florida investigation. Following Epstein's death in 2019, Sarah Kellen actually received compensation from the Victims' Compensation Program, claiming she was also a victim. Sarah Kellen was described as a key participant who scheduled appointments and coordinated with the victims. She was later identified by a federal judge as knowing and being criminally responsible participant in the conspiracy. So, again, allegations that Sarah and Leslie and Adriana and Nadia all either participated, knew about it, and or helped facilitate the crimes against children, and they'll never face justice. They'll never face justice. So, the conclusion I've come to on this particular piece, I believe that Ghislaine Maxwell is threatening Donald Trump through blackmail. And anybody else connected to this. Because I don't think you would go out knowing full well that this is going to get some attention. I don't think you would go out there and say, hey, there's 25 other people. I think she is lobbying hard for either a pardon or a commutation. And strictly my opinion, I think what you're going to learn over the next few weeks, a shakeup at the DOJ. Because if the president attempts to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, he has to be damn sure. He has to be damn sure that the people that he's got at the top of the DOJ are not these incompetent fucks, because that's what they are. And I personally think that he can defend pardoning her more than what she would say, because she's got the goods. You know she does. You know she's got the goods. She was in and out of Mar-a-Lago. She's got the goods. She is the key to all this. So I think he can much more easily defend pardoning her than allowing her to talk. So does she get an NDA? Does she get disappeared? This is a movie. I mean, these are all the spy and espionage and corruption and global networks, all the movies we've ever watched. This is it. Yeah, I don't think you're right. I don't think he cares anymore about defending it. I don't think he cares, because he has convinced his loyal supporters that no matter what, I'm fine. And then this goes back to what I said last week about how this whole Board of Peace thing, I personally think that's his way out. I think he resigns the presidency. I think he gets a preemptive pardon from J.D. Vance, or whoever that is, and he goes about his life until he dies in a couple of years from his health conditions. And he gets away with it. I wish that weren't the case, but I don't see another way through this. I think the worst part to me literally is that because his supporters just continually move the goalpost. Initially it was, release the files. Then there was rumors that his name was all over the files. Then it was like, just because he's in there doesn't mean that he's done anything wrong. Then you're starting to get witness testimony and survivor statements. And then they're like, well, those are just allegations. And then you're starting to get more and more and more and more allegations. And then like, well, again, those are just allegations. Then you get contradictions in his storyline about when their relationship ended. And then they're like, it's fake news. Then the birthday book comes out and you're like, that's fake. It's a Democrat hoax. Then that was proven to be true. Then he sues the Wall Street Journal for publishing it. And the Wall Street Journal's like, bring it on. And notice that case has gone away because of discovery. Every single time more and more information comes out, they just continue to push and push and push the goalpost. It guts me to say this, but he'll never face justice for this. He'll never face justice. And so many people in his orbit will either be the ultimate fall guy, or they won't face justice either. So we already know Kevin Warsh. Again, I'm not accusing Mr. Warsh of anything, but every single time someone else's name pops up, we have a connection to Jeffrey. Every single time. Every single time we have a connection. Is it just nothing but coincidence? We now have Elon Musk's name in there, right? We know we've had Steve Bannon's name. And I'm going to tell you this wild fucking story about the Epstein family, the Rothschild family, and Adolf Schmittler. I shit you fucking not. And then how that connects to Steve Bannon. Again, this is beyond, you could never write a story about this because people would be like, this is crazy. I mean, this is real life fucking shit. And people would never believe it if you read it. Never believe it in a million fucking years. So we have people, yeah, I'll get to that in just a moment. It's because it's I was like, wait a minute, what? All kinds of connections to Israel, connections to Russia. I don't. Anyway, back to what I was saying about Maxwell. Again, this is just my thought, my theory on this. It just seems logical to me because he's been able to condition his supporters that it doesn't matter what he does. Don't forget. He's the one that told us he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and murder someone, and his supporters wouldn't care. They wouldn't. On that point, real quick, let me just play this quick little sound for you just to kind of, again, this is what we're facing. See if I can find it. Everybody keep tapping, please. Don't forget, we are crowdfunded here. You want to support the channel. Best way to do that is through the various things at Factsstillmatter. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Do I have it still? I had all kinds of issues with my computer this morning. I was like, uh-oh, we're not going to be able to do a show. But I figured it out. I was my own tech support. Do I still have that? Hang on. And as I'm scrolling through this, I want today our focus is not, we're not going to get too much into the detail of some of the salacious statements that have been made because I don't think it's necessary to do that. I don't want to re-traumatize anyone. I certainly don't want to to not discuss it. We are, but to me, it's more about the size of the cover up and how far people are willing to go to protect this guy, no matter what. I don't have the sound. I don't know where it is. I'll find it later. Do I? I have basically what I do is I create this file and it's sort of helps me keep things organized. But every once in a while, I'll have a bit of a meltdown with my computer, and then things just freak out on me. So maybe I put it up here. Hang on a second. Sorry. Give me one sec. Here you go. So this is an example, right? And we're going to talk about the red hat piece in just a minute. And the reason I'm playing this for you now, because I think it's relevant, because this is what we're up against, right? This, again, it doesn't matter. Even if there was video evidence, because this is what they want. It seems like people who are in defense of these horrible crimes, the worst crimes imaginable, even if there was a camera in the room, even if it was captured on video, even if it was so fucking obvious, they would say that it's AI, or how can we believe that? Or are you sure that's him? I don't think that's him, blah, blah, blah. So this was somebody, a Trump supporter being interviewed about, his devotion to Donald Trump. And here you go. Here's the words.
His son became an artist when selling art to foreign countries for $2-3 million. Never did art in his life. That was a way to filter money, and that was just a different way to do it.
So if you want to argue on that, let's grant that. Are you aware of the $1 billion deal that Trump did with, I believe it was Taiwan, for a Trump golf resort over there? In exchange, he lowered Taiwan's tariffs.
There's not a thing you could say right now or do that's going to turn me against Trump.
So it's
Nothing.
Okay if Joe Biden, let's say it is the case that Joe Biden, immorally got millions of dollars through Hunter Biden. Millions of dollars, okay, that's bad, sure. But if Trump gets a $1 billion deal and then uses his political power to lower tariffs on Taiwan, that's okay to you?
See, it's different from my way of thinking, because just as much as you hate the right or dislike, whatever word you guys want to use,
sure,
I'm that 100 times stronger towards the left. I just think they're lazy. I think there's nothing I like about them, and there's nothing I mean, conservatism is the only. I've only known that since I was knee high.
Exactly.
And there's nothing. I mean, I understand, and I know everybody has an opinion, but like, the thing that you guys got to be prepared for, whatever side you stand for, is Republicans are going to be set in office now for probably the next 16 to 20 years. There's not going to be any chance. I mean, your guys' party is, if you're a Democrat, I don't know what you are, but your party is completely falling apart. And I mean,
I totally disagree with that when you look at the polls. I think the Democrats, especially if you saw the special elections that we had in November, when we look at 2026, some things are going to keep going the way they are. It looks like it's going to be a blue tsunami.
There you go. And we've heard it millions of times, right? Millions of times. It doesn't matter. The evidence is irrelevant. The statements are irrelevant. The comments, the connections, the financial trails, the obvious fraud, the obvious corruption. And it doesn't matter. You get people like that. I've been hearing over the weekend now, they're trying to pivot their argument again. Now they're trying to go back to say, well, obviously the 2020 election, Georgia, there's just fucking nonsense. And now they're trying to say that the case in New York, when he's a 34-time convicted felon, was illegitimate because of invalid jury instructions. So your boy did a little bit of research, and we'll go through that again this morning, okay? But I do want to remind folks that there is, I'm not going to say a silver lining, but in case you didn't know, there were 2 elections over the weekend in Texas. The one that's really absolutely important to talk about is Democrat Taylor Remmett, who won the special election in the state Senate District 9 in Texas, defeating Republican Lee Wamsgas in the runoff, which was held on Saturday. Remmett received 57.2% of the vote. That's a district that hasn't been held by a Democrat in like 25 years. Donald Trump won that district in 2024 by 17 points. Mr. Remmett flipped it by 34 points. It is one of the biggest red counties in the state of Texas. Something is happening in Texas. I am imploring you, Texans, you've got to stay motivated. You've got a lot of great candidates to vote for, a ton. My expectation is that you will show the fuck up. Has it been 35 years? So that is an example. That is an example of people, because again, that took Republican voters to make that happen because it's a bright red district. So that's Republican voters saying enough's enough. Now this person will keep this seat, I believe, through the remainder of this year, going to have to run again. And then you've got Texas District 18, which is Christian Menifee won the special election there to fill the seat left vacant after the death of Rep. Sylvester Turner. That makes the current count in the U.S. House 218 to 214. There are 3 more special elections, right? They are in, where are they? Georgia's 14th, which was MTG's seat. New Jersey's 11th, which was Mikey Sherrill's seat in Jersey. So the District 14 in Georgia, that special election is scheduled for March 10th. New Jersey's 11th, which again was Mikey Sherrill, that's April 16th. And then California's 1st, that special election is scheduled for August 4th. So the Georgia's 14th is pretty bright red. California's 1st is interesting because that's part of the whole redistricting. That's all part of the whole push in California, right? So all of a sudden, game this out. Say, for example, 2 of those seats go to Democrats. That number goes to 216. And if that 1 seat in California remains the same, or I'm sorry, and then that MTG seat remains the same red, that's 219 to 216. You can lose 1 vote, Mike, bitch boy, 1 vote. And then there's talk about retirements. That's still on the table. A lot of people are planning on stepping away over the course of the summer. You think your vote doesn't matter? You think it's not important to participate in democracy? This is how close we are. This is how close we are to changing things, to changing the entire fucking map. That was such an amazing, no one was expecting that. No one was expecting that. Sure. You could obviously say, yeah, the race is closer. And remember that 13 number I told you guys about? Remember, we looked at that Ashton Bain race in Tennessee, right? Obviously, I think most people knew that she was going to lose that seat, but she carved 13 points off the margin from that district in 2024. So if we use that as a litmus test, any Republican-held seat with a margin of 13 becomes in play. Again, think about what they're doing. They are so fucking desperate to remain in power that they're going to do anything and everything. So be prepared. Be prepared. The story about Elon Musk and Doge getting social security numbers, getting access to voter rolls. They are going to do everything they can. And I want people to think about this, okay? They're doing everything they can, not because they think they have a better agenda, not because they think their programs and their policies are better for the working class, not because they think what they're focused on is America first. It's so they don't go to fucking jail. It's so the people that are now in office are not exposed. They are willing to do everything they can. Everyone, you have to check your voter registration. And I was discussing this yesterday. I'm going to do a brief segue into our Do Something tour. Expect an announcement this week on a few things potentially, but there's no better time. There's no better time to be activating voters than right now. Getting out, talking to people, and reminding them what's at stake. Do you believe that we should be exposing anybody and everyone connected to the Jeffrey files and not care who it is? If you want that, then please participate. If you want that, then please vote. Are you registered? So those are the kinds of things that we'll be talking about. Now, when I go out on the road, I don't want this to be, it's going to be apolitical, only because the conversations I want to have are intended to remind people what's important to them, right? Like, what is important to you? Is healthcare important to you? Is a better tax code important to you? I saw your note, Santana. I'll talk to you about that, my friend. Thank you, though. But it's not. I'll talk to you about it. It's about the things that we should all care about. And you've heard my pitch, right? You've heard my pitch. 90 million or so non-voters who didn't participate, registered voters in 2024, and 45 million. This is just my sort of understanding of that voting block. I know no one's a monolith. No one votes the same way. 45 million roughly are the two sides of the same coin, two wings of the same bird. I think they're just lazy politically. I think those are like Jill Stein voters who are just want to complain about everything. And then I think there are 45 million people in our country, in every Middlesex village and town, small town America, rural America, large metropolitan centers, suburbs, you name it, who are just disgusted by the system, who don't feel like anybody is representing them. They've not seen or heard from their elected official. They just want to be, they're like us. They want to raise their families. They work hard. Maybe they've got struggles in life. Maybe they're on government assistance, but they don't know, they've never asked for help. They don't know who to ask for help. They don't know how the machine works. Those people are gettable voters because they're just like you and me. Although we have our political affiliations, we participate, they're not. They're not participating, and we want them to. So we got all this momentum. We've got all this momentum behind, and there's a lot of progressives that are winning seats too. A lot of progressives, which means progressives are getting support from Democratic voters and independent voters and even Republican voters. There's no better time to be out on the road talking to people. So I'm going out there. I'm going to be out there in April, May timeframe, and we're still working out the details of where we're going to go and how we're going to go, but I'm going. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the most planned or organized event. We will be asking you for help. We will be asking you for help for logistics. We'll be asking you for help for some coordination on the ground. We'll be asking you for some help and support for a variety of things. We'll be tapping into this community, but I'm doing it. If it's the only thing, this is going to be my do something. I mean, I know that we do a lot here every day, but this is going to be my do something. And I don't think there's a better way to do it than right now. Better time to do it than right now. Thank you for that. All right, then. So just back to this, the election piece. 218 to 214 now with the special election victory. 2-seat swing, that's 218 to 216. One remains Republican, that's 219 to 216. Mike Johnson has not been able to manage his caucus. There are so many Republicans in the House that are angry with him. Don't forget, they're back in session today, and they're going to have to vote on a continuing resolution to fund DHS. Because right now, the Senate said, we're not going to accept the House's proposal, so they're going to have to vote on it. And it's not going to pass. So DHS is not going to get their money because Republicans. Mike Johnson's going to do everything he can to blame it on Democrats. This time, he's got no leg to stand on because there are Republicans that are against it too. So that was a big weekend. Big weekend. Anyway, long story short, people are finally seeing it. Now, I don't know the harm that's been done. And we can't fix that, right? People have made their decisions, right? We had a couple of interesting conversations with folks last week who really felt, we'll give folks the benefit of the doubt. It's easy to be cynical. It's easy not to trust because I'm not a big words person. I'm an actions person. If you regret your vote, then show me. I don't want you hiding behind your profile. I want you to show me. I want you to show me that you regret your vote. I want you to show me that you defend survivors. I want you to show me that you're willing to go and stand in the breach in defense of people who are under threat every single day. I want change. We all do. And we have to work together. Leftists, you've got to stop being so entitled. You've got to stop this bullshit narrative about voting third party. You have to stop because you are just as responsible. You've got to do better. You've got to focus on harm reduction. No one's going to criticize you. You might still support the third party system, but to get third party, you got to vote for people who want it because there are progressives that feel the same way. There are progressives that don't want Citizens United anymore. There are progressives that want to say, listen, we need to change the fucking court. I want to end the fucking filibuster. I want 13 Supreme Court justices, and I want them as liberal as possible to balance this shit out. We have not had a liberal Supreme Court in like 40 years, if not longer. I want DC to have statehood. These are the kinds of things that we should all want. And the only thing that's keeping us from that are conservatives in our country. Progressives are ready to fight. And I have an expectation that you all will stand up and do it. No more excuses. None. Especially people who look like me and white women too. You guys have to do better. You know that. All right. Everybody keep tapping. Let me just check over here real quick. Thank you all for your gift so far. I really appreciate you. Thank you for your kind words. You're awesome. Hang on one sec. And then we're going to talk about the petty ass bitch, our president, complaining about the Kennedy Center. Of all things, like during the 250th anniversary of the Kennedy Center, and he's going to close it. He's not closing it because it needs repairs. He's closing it because artists are like, I'm not going to fucking go and sit in your fucking stench. Hang on one second. I got that one. Thank you. Appreciate that. That came in yesterday. I'll check that later. All right. What I want to do now is I want to talk about some of the people that new names that we've learned and some of the statements that they've made in the past, because where I want to focus today a lot, and especially in regards to the Jeffrey files, is the contradictions. Okay? Because that to me speaks to how vast this cover-up is. Okay? Let's get into it then. Hang on one sec. Remember, everything that we discussed today are allegations. Okay, that's the whole point here. Massive drop, as we know, but there's still more. Guesstimates are that it's half because of statements that the DOJ has made. They said they have nearly 5 million documents, roughly 3 million were released, thousands of videos, thousands of pictures, etc. And it's intentional, right? They did it because they don't expect people to go through it. And I'm going to give lots of people a lot of credit for going through this shit. Elon's in there. Howard Lutnick, Steve Tisch, who's the owner of the Giants, Bill Gates, mentioned in records, Casey Wasserman, emails with Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew, we know about that, with Sarah Ferguson. So let's talk about Andrew a little bit. Emails show, this is from The Guardian, emails show former Prince Andrew engaged with Epstein, including invitations and private discussions during periods he had publicly claimed to have distanced himself. Communications between Jeffrey and Sarah Ferguson include personal and financial aspects, including allegedly offering support and social plans. We know that he has been basically disowned by the royals. Now think about that. Think about how bad it has to be for the royals, of all people, to basically disown him. Okay? Casey Wasserman emails. The newly released documents show flirtatious and suggestive exchanges between Wasserman, the LA 2028 Olympic leader, who's been in the Oval Office, and Ghislaine Maxwell from 2003. He's said to regret them and denies a substantive relationship with Epstein. Slovakia's national security advisor resigned after emails between him when he was a foreign minister and Jeffrey surfaced. He denies wrongdoing. Lawyers for survivors have stated that some victim names and identifying information appeared to have been unredacted. Again, that's violating the law in the files, drawing criticism and prompting ongoing DOJ corrections. DOJ officials have publicly indicated that despite the massive volume of material, they do not anticipate further criminal charges arising directly from the newly released documents. Well, there it is, right? There it is. So they're not going to investigate. You understand the reason why? They can't investigate. They can't. Because they cannot claim, they cannot live by they can't live by the narrative that there are no crimes being committed here. So they have to stick with that, because if they investigate, then they would literally have witness testimony. People would be on the record more so than they are. So that's what this is about. They are all circling the wagons. And in the middle of that is the President of the United States. And once again, if some of the allegations that were released on Friday, if they prove to be true, be careful how I say this. If some of those allegations prove to be true, then you could make a claim, again, allegedly, the President of the United States is connected to serial unaliving. Again, allegations. Allegations. That's it. A few more things here, and I'm going to talk about Howard Lutnick in just a moment. Again, the count was 3 million additional pages, 2,000 plus videos, 180,000 images. The challenge that we face, and I might have said this earlier, I don't know, is that when there's so much information like this, and because billionaires tend to flock together, the confusion, and I should say the intentional confusion between people that could truly be innocent, right? That could clearly be innocent, have nothing to do with this other than participating in parties. The question though becomes when. So are they innocent if they knew of the crimes and they went anyway? So I'm not here to make accusations. I'm here to offer my perspective on things. And like I said, allegedly, if you read some of the FBI complainants, and they're absolutely filthy and disgusting, and it talks about girls disappearing, children disappearing in the ultimate sense, in some of the most despicable and vile things that Mr. Trump's name has been mentioned, and others. So these people that are part of this network, this global network of rich and elite people, they all protect each other. This is like the ultimate country club. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll talk about it more in just a second. Everybody hang in there today. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. Really appreciate you all. Yeah, Riley, Dr. Riley did tell us. Hi, Johnson. How are you today?
How are you, man?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I think you should read the files. They're very interesting.
I have.
Yeah. Well, the ones that I've read, it's been justifying many years of right-wing conspiracy. It's kind of surprising to me.
It's been justified?
Yeah. Well, they do reference pizzas. It's kind of weird. You know,
right, that was code. That was code. So are you a Trump supporter?
Yeah.
Okay, why is the DOJ breaking the law?
Wait, what law?
The Epstein Files Transparency Act.
What part of the law did they break?
30 days, all files they have in their possession are supposed to be released. And when they did release them, they had to, all names of people that are not survivors, their names have to be public. And any names that were redacted, they have to have an explanation. So 45 days, they're breaking the law. Why is that?
Sounds like you're moving the goalpost.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you.
Well,
why
is there any
breaking the
files
law?
in particular where you're like, wow, this guy is a criminal, we should have his name?
Johnson, that's not the question I asked you. Why are they breaking the law?
Well, I'm not familiar with this law, so maybe you're mischaracterizing it.
No, the Epstein do you not know what the Epstein Transparency Act is?
No, I did not read the Epstein Transparency Act.
So you don't know what that is?
No, I do not know what that is.
Okay, the Epstein Transparency Act was signed by every member of the House except for one, and unanimous in the Senate, and then signed into law by Donald Trump. In the Epstein Transparency Act, it was required by the Department of Justice to release everything that they had related to the Jeffrey case. And in that release, they had to redact the names of all survivors, which they didn't do, and any people alleged to be involved in these crimes, no matter who they are, their names had to be made public. And then any redactions made, there had to be an explanation by the Department of Justice as to why the redactions were made. So again, I ask you, why is the Trump administration's Department of Justice violating the law?
Why? I don't know. They probably have a reason. I just don't know what the reason is.
Why do you think it is? Let logic intervene here. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good reasons.
Well, why? So name one.
Well, the most obvious one is just because your name is in the document doesn't mean that you're a criminal.
I know that. So again, but why are they breaking the law? You've yet to answer that question. Why?
I just did. There might be people who are in the documents who are not criminals, who maybe just had an email chain with Jeffrey Epstein.
That's not the question, man. That's not the question. The question is they had 30 days to release everything. The law signed by the President of the United States. Okay? That's the law. So why do you think they are breaking the law?
Why do you think they're breaking the law?
I'm asking you. Why do you think they're breaking the law?
I just gave you my reason. You didn't like it. So what's your reason?
You didn't give me a reason. You didn't.
I gave you the reason. I literally just said there might be people in the name or in the files who are not criminals. So you don't want to incriminate everybody.
Once again, sir, that's not the point. The law requires them to have released everything.
You said, why are they breaking the law? Well, if I jaywalk, I'm breaking the law to cross the street.
Once again, sir, that's not the question. So do you believe that Donald Trump is innocent?
Yes.
So, but Bill Clinton is not?
Well, you have to read the actual files. Bill Clinton in the files.
I'm asking you, okay? This is your opportunity. So there's Donald Trump's name is mentioned in these files more than anybody, except for Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. His name is in there more than anybody. So you think he's innocent, but everybody else is guilty?
Yes, because the context in which he is mentioned.
Of course. Get the fuck out of here. There's the cult. You see what I mean? It doesn't matter. Somebody like that will literally sit up here and say, just allegations. That's exactly my point, friends. That's exactly my point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's a camera. It doesn't matter if there is sworn testimony from somebody walking out of a room after just being abused. It doesn't matter. You'll spin and you'll twist and you'll grind yourself into pulp to try to defend this. I want you to hear about what you just said. Bill Clinton's guilty, but nobody else is. Hang on one second. I've been summoned. Good call. Thank you for that reminder, Sam. BT Dubs, today is the last day in Texas to register to vote in your primaries. Non sequitur. Today, if you all live in Texas, today is the last day you can register. So please go do that. Thank you for that, Sam. We just witnessed it. We just literally witnessed it. This is what we're talking about. Nobody on the left, I can't say nobody. I don't give a fuck about the Clintons. I don't care about anybody connected to this other than the survivors because we believe them. Everybody, I want them held accountable. And we have our previous guest who said everybody but Trump, even though Trump's name is in there more than anyone else, more than anybody else. His name is in there more than anyone else, but he's innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. It's mind-boggling. It is absolutely mind-boggling. I don't get it. I never will. I don't get it, and I never will.
Hello, Steve.
Good morning. Hi, Auntie.
Good
How are you?
morning. Not bad, thank you. Yeah, sorry, still having to use my backup account at the minute, but how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm all right. Thank you for asking.
So good. So, for everyone listening, it's Auntie Biscuit here. So I'm listening to what you're saying this morning, and by the way, that previous guest, what an absolute twat. That's all I can say. To be quite honest with you. Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously I'm from Wales, the United Kingdom, and obviously the Prince Andrew, and in fact it would appear probably all of the royal family are implicated to a certain degree, whether or not they're covering up or whether or not they're complicit at this point. Now, as somebody who is a staunch Republican, and when I mean Republican, I mean that in the traditional sense, anti-monarchist. I'm looking at this and thinking this could be the first time in literally centuries that if the truth comes out properly, this could literally end the royal family in the UK. It really could. And just to any of the listeners out here, I just want to be absolutely clear here. This isn't just about America. This isn't just about, or the United States. This isn't just about red versus blue. This isn't a Republican versus Democrat. This is about quite a significant group of women and young girls. I believe it's over 10,000 worldwide who have been trafficked for sexual purposes. I also believe that some of the files have also shown there to have been some young boys involved at some point as well.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, so I want that to be acknowledged as well. It's not just women and girls, there's little boys involved with all of this as well.
We believe survivors. Exactly. Survivors.
100%. 100%. Now, allegedly, and I'm going to be very careful in how I word this, allegedly that some of the most powerful people on the planet have allegedly raped and essayed young girls, yet women and boys.
I don't want to get into the graphics. I think everybody understands that.
No. I promise you.
Due respects. I'm sorry, friend. Excuse me. I don't want to revisit the crimes themselves. I'm here to talk today about the network. So again, please respect that, or I'll just ask you to leave. Okay?
Yeah. No. Of course. So and so what I'm going to just say to everybody out there right now, right? We need to believe survivors. We need to actually listen to what they have to say. And as somebody who, as a child, was a victim of the Catholic Church, and knowing how that institution has been massively protected over the years, it is about time that we end the political gamesmanship with all of this, and we literally bring whoever they are, whatever side of whatever political divide they're on, to justice. And these people who are trying to go, but it was your guy who did it, or it was your girl who did it, that's got to end. So what am I going to say, Stephen, because I know that you can't have me up here for too long, because I know you want to get on with your show. If people can believe survivors, if people can stop trying to protect these people just because you might like their politics outside of this area, and if we can please also remember that this is an international issue, it's a borderless crime. Can we all please, on this one, leave our flags at the door, please? And agreed. I don't care what flag you're flying. US flag, UK flag, French flag, German flag. Really don't care. Let's leave those flags at the door and do what is right for the victims, and make sure whoever is guilty ends up preferably buried under the jail, if I had my way.
Thank you, Monty. I appreciate you. Have a good day. Be safe
Thank
out
you.
there.
You
got
too.
it. Just a general rule. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the crimes today. I'm not going to re-traumatize people. I don't want to do that. So if that's what you want to come up and talk about, and you want to talk about some things that you've read, please don't. There's plenty of people who, if you want to cite some of the complaint forms about some of the egregious and despicable and vile things that have happened, then you can do that. You're just not doing it here today. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Part of what I want to talk about are the contradictions, and we've got all of them. So I know it's not going to matter. I know it's not going to matter to many people, as we've learned previously, because people on the right don't. But I want you guys to be fueled with the information. I know a lot of people come to us and talk and look to us to be your news source, and I'm happy to do that. I'm not going to revisit. I'm not going to re-traumatize. Just not going to do it. So we'll focus on the people, right? So a lot of it has to do with all the contradictions that we've heard. So the goal today is to debunk claims that are made by people, especially people in Mr. Trump's closest circle. The lies told by Elon, the lies told by Steve Bannon, the lies told by Howard Nuttlick. Yes, him too. Oftentimes, when you are stuck, when you base your entire agenda on lies, if you are, again, based your entire agenda on lies, when the lies catch up to each other, then it becomes incredibly difficult to spin out of it. So the lies that the president has told about why the relationship ended, talk about, he said some reporting was the relationship ended because of the real estate deal. And the president comes out and says, no, the relationship ended because Jeffrey stole my employees. And then Caroline Levitt says, well, the president told me he ended the relationship because Jeffrey's a creep. And then there was a 15-year window where the president claimed they didn't speak. And then there's evidence based on email traffic that that's not the case. So it's one lie after another. One lie after another. Okay? So I want to talk about Howard Nuttlick, because his name has shown up. He's the Commerce Secretary. What I find interesting is that I think because people have been emboldened to think that they can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, and there will be no accountability, even knowing that the things that they're saying are a direct fucking lie, we are in this position now, right? We are here. We've got people in positions of power, primarily white men in positions of power in the Trump administration, in the close circle. Remember, it's a one-off. You'd be like, okay, one-off. They found out about this person, then they remove them. But they are bringing people into the circle. I'm bringing in Elon. I'm bringing in Howard Nuttlick. I'm bringing in Pam Bondi and her connection to the Acosta. And I'm bringing in Alex Acosta, who was the former labor secretary. And I'm bringing in all these people who've got these connections to this. Why? Is it to keep the circle close? Remember, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer? So here's Howard Nuttlick in this infamous interview when he was talking about the an encounter that he had, and then I'll play for you, then I'll read to you what I wanted to in part of this. Anyway, here's Howard Nuttlick. Hang on one second.
Table in the middle of the room. And candles all.
Hang on one second.
He opens the doors, and there's a massage table in the middle of the room. And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. And he says, and the right kind of massage. Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross. And so I look back at it as a gift. Yes. He gave me a gift. Yes. Of a voice. And so, yeah, that's my story. A one and absolutely done.
So one and absolutely done. So he was citing that encounter when they were neighbors. He was referring to that encounter back in 2005. That's what he was referencing. And you heard it. One and done. Unfortunately for Mr. Nutlick, we have receipts. There was an email thread dated December the 19th, 2012 to Jeffrey. Hi, Jeff. We are landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon and planning to head over to St. Bart's Anguilla on Monday at some point. Where are you located? What is the exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple, Michael and Marcy Lehrman, with me on the boat, and each of us has 4 children. 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old girl. Jeffrey responds, December the 19th, 2012, to Howard, to Leslie, in regard to Howard. Come Saturday or Sunday lunch, Little St. James on the map behind Christmas Cove. FYI, I'll let you know what he says. That's the Commerce Secretary. Flat out lying. It's not even a stretch of the truth. It is a flat out fucking lie. How else is there? What other explanation is there? One and done. One and done. Now that I've read to you, now that I've given you the timestamp, 7 years after, even knowing full well that this guy had already been charged and convicted of his crimes, gets this sweetheart fucking deal. After all that fucking happens, he still goes. And then last year, just this past year, as Commerce Secretary, he was interviewed. And here's the interview again.
And there's a massage table in the middle of the room. And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage?
Laughing?
And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. And he says, and the right kind of massage. Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross. And so I look back at it as a gift. Yes. He gave me a gift. Yes. Of a voice. And so, yeah, that's my story. A one and absolutely done.
What's the comment? This is the point to me. We don't have to get into the absolutely just, I don't even know how to, there's no adjective to describe some of the things that I've read over the weekend. But that's the whole point. Laughing, sitting there laughing, knowing full well that you're lying, Howard. That you're lying. You're flat out fucking lying. That is the entire game for these people. That's the entire game. I'm just gonna lie. I'm just going to lie. I'm going to manipulate. I'm going to tell people. I'm going to make these. I stood up. I stood up. I defended people. But yet, just a few years later, there you are, making travel plans. They all feel like they're safe. That's why they glaze him. That's why they sit around these cabinet meetings and just tell him anything he wants to hear. Because he knows, or they know that he knows. Why do you think all the names that we continue to bring up have got these connections? Scott Bessent moving money, Howard Nutlick being his neighbor, the new chairman of the Fed, potential chairman of the Fed, mentioned on emails, Bannon, Elon, Pam Bondi's involvement. Where's the fucking line? Where's the line? Tom, I see everybody hang tight. I think I just got a flag. I'll be right back.
TikTok. It is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. Opinions of our guest or commenters are theirs and theirs alone and do not reflect those of the host. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. This platform is for educational purposes only. We now return you to our regularly scheduled pandemonium, already in progress.
Sorry. And I would just ask folks, just please respect the rules today. We don't need to be re-traumatizing people. There's plenty to talk about. We don't have to go down that particular road. So please just respect that. I appreciate it. Hey, Tom, how are you, man?
Hey, morning, Steve. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
I know the feeling. It's funny how like today's all right is almost good. Like if you say to someone, "How you doing?" and they say, "I'm doing okay," you're like, "Oh wow, very very good." Okay is the new good.
That's true. Like slightly below average is acceptable these days. Yeah.
I know. What you were talking about the speculation of why all these people seem to be entrenched in this lifestyle. I don't think it's a bug. I think it's a feature. I think that the rationale behind it is kind of like misery loves company, or if you have people that have had checkered pasts and have been involved in that sort of thing, it's easier to kind of manipulate their position once you put them in. So I think there's a lot of that going on. I think there's dirt out there on Pam. There's questionable stuff going on with all of that.
That's a really good point, right? It's like, if anybody knows anything about this, it seems like they've been brought into the fold, so to speak, whatever it looks like. I mean, Pam Bondi, sure, she was an attorney general in Florida, right? Of course, she's got some competency based on title, but she's connected to this thing because she was serving when Alex Acosta gave the sweetheart deal to Epstein. So yeah, it's like bring everybody in. You don't want you leave no trace, so to speak.
Right, 100%. And one other quick point before I let you go, I appreciate you having me up. Hawk, I had seen a video that Hawk did last night, and Ghislaine Maxwell is putting in a habeas corpus to be released because she's saying that 4 co-conspirators and 20 men like paid off people. And so there's speculation. I agreed with his speculation that she could literally be blackmailing Donald Trump.
It's funny. I thought the same thing. I talked about that earlier.
Oh,
Good minds,
cool.
I guess.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, I think because my argument was that Trump and his administration will have an easier time explaining why they pardoned her than letting her speak.
Absolutely. And obviously the country club she's in now, she wants to take this a step further, and she's got to have dirt on everybody.
She does. She obviously has dirt on everybody. Don't forget, she's the only one that has faced justice. I mean, Epstein, sure, but we know what happened to him. So she's the only one.
And of course it's a woman.
We're just going to go there. Exactly right. She'll take the fall for everybody.
Have a great show, dude. Thanks for having me up.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. See you later.
See you later, man.
Yeah, it's the right point, right? I didn't realize that's cool that Hawk did that as well. So good minds, right? I firmly believe that, right? I think there's it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for them to try to figure out a way to justify pardoning her than letting her speak. Right? Because don't forget, the right was holding on to little bits from that infamous meeting that she had with Todd Blanche over the summer, where she said that she saw the president there and she saw Bill Clinton there. And of course, that's the only thing that they wanted to publicize on Fox News. And then the right jumped on that and said, Clinton's the one. And don't forget, our guest earlier today, it doesn't matter. I'm going to play a little bit of a documentary on Red Hat later, but right now we've got things to move through. But Tom's right. Right? I mean, it's like you pull all these people, just anybody. We have to find anybody and everybody, which then gets you thinking about the results of the 2024 election and Elon Musk's involvement, and then hacking into the Social Security offices and going after the 2020 election returns from Georgia. All these things. It's happening right in front of us. So that's why you get this result from Texas over the weekend. And that's why you get the whole the redistricting in Texas is going to blow up in their face. And the Republicans know it. And now there's rumblings in the House about enough Republicans that are on board that want to impeach the president. And what would that look like in the Senate? I don't want that to happen. If Republicans want to introduce articles of impeachment, then go for it. Would it surprise you if Thomas Massie's the one that does it? Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Speaking of Thomas Massie, he's been approached by the FBI. Here you go.
Also, I'm going to say this here on camera because it's important. One of Kash Patel's staff threatened my staff with a criminal investigation if we didn't straighten up and play ball.
I was going to ask you about that, but since you brought it up, and I didn't,
I'm bringing it up.
Okay, you brought it up.
And so, like a criminal investigation having nothing to do. He said it was going to be a fraud. We're going to investigate one of your staff for fraud. Right. And he told another one of my staff this.
Fraud.
If you guys don't straighten up, if you want to play hardball, if this is how you want to play it or something like that, this member of your staff is going to get criminally investigated for fraud.
Of course.
A very specific threat.
Of course.
Also, I'm going to say this here on camera because it's important. One of Kash Patel's.
There you go. So Thomas Massie, in case you don't know, Thomas Massie, Republican, he's a co-sponsor along with Democrat Ro Khanna of the Epstein Transparency Act, right? So he's been very vocal. Keep in mind, this guy has voted with the president many, many times, but he drew the line at predators. And it's like, this needs to come out. So he's been on the president's shit list. President wants him primaried. Kash Patel threatening him? Like what? Threatening him for what? Fraud? That's the claim now that we want to use. We want to use fraud. Meanwhile, they don't want to talk about the $14 billion connected to COVID era funding in Texas. Or Valentina Rodriguez, who's a hardcore MAGA. I think that's her name, Valentina. Valentina Rodriguez, hardcore MAGA, who went into a church that supports LGBTQIA rights, disrupting their service. Are we going to indict her? Of course not. Of course not. We're not going to do that. Not at all. So here's Thomas Massie, a Republican in the House with a super fucking slim majority. Okay. But nothing to see here, right? Nothing at all. And then the entire thing comes back to this simple truth that there are people in our government currently under the direction of Donald Trump who are doing anything and everything they can to protect the people committing these crimes against children. Young girls, young boys, the survivors of some of the most egregious and vile crimes you could ever imagine. People are working to protect the perpetrators and not the survivors. The moral right, the Christian right, the pro-life crowd, the we have to stand for women, therefore we're going to pass legislation to outlaw men and women's sports. What about locker rooms? Let's blame the trans community, even though it makes up, what, 1/10 of the fucking population? You want to stand there and look in the mirror and say that you care about protecting children? You want to stand there and say that we should be going after trafficking networks? We got to be rounding up illegals on the streets of American cities because of their trafficking network? You want to stop trafficking? Arrest the president. Right now. And everybody involved. Every single one of them. You really want to talk about going after trafficking? Tell you what, I will stand arm in arm with you. The brightest red hat wearing, pterodactyl flying, truck nut polishing MAGA. I will stand there shoulder to shoulder with you and say, you want to go after trafficking? You really want to get to the heart of some of the biggest trafficking network in the fucking world? Then start with the president. And anybody connected to it. Anybody and everybody. What's a lie, J Crime? What's a lie? Hippie Chick, how are you today?
Good morning, Fax. How are you doing? I don't know
I'm
if you
good.
remember speaking to me a few years ago, but I came on to one of your lives and I made the comment that Donald and Jeffrey lived within 1 mile of each other in New York City and within 5 miles of each other in West Palm Beach. And I
Correct.
want people to remember that fact, that they
Correct.
lived so close together in 2 states, which is very unique. Who does that? Who does that?
Agreed. Agreed. Sharing each other's
Okay.
planes, sharing each other's networks. I completely agree.
And also, sweetheart, I love you dearly. I'm in the hospital right now because I had a cardiac event a week ago.
I'm so sorry.
And it's caused from stress. It's called Takotsubo syndrome, broken heart syndrome, caused from prolonged stress. I want each and every one of you to take good care of yourself during these days. This is a tremendous amount of stress we are enduring. And I want you to all to remember to take good care of yourself, to take time to meditate, to take time to separate from this stuff, because it's a lot. This is a lot for our country to go through. This is a lot for each one of us to go through. In fact, this is a lot for you to endure also, to constantly be bringing this. So I just want to remind everybody to take time to take care of yourself, love yourself, touch some grass. And I'll be out of the hospital in 4 or 5 days. But I don't want anybody else to go through this.
We see you, Hippie Chick. We see you.
I love you guys.
Love you too. Get better, okay? Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
She's right. It's an interesting line when you are or when you're considered an independent journalist, and you do this every day because it's not easy to cover this shit. It's really not. Which is why we always try to sprinkle in a little bit of do something, and why it's important to take advice from Hippie Chick, and why it's important to touch grass, and why it's important to pick up a new hobby, or just to find a few minutes for yourself, because our brains are firing, and we've got a lot of work to do in spite of all the shit that we see and all the horrible things that are happening to people in our country and around the world. We can't let it beat us. We have to fight through it. And the only way to do that is to take moments to recharge your battery. So that's really good advice. I'm glad you said that. Okay. So we've addressed the bullshit from Kash Patel. We know about the lies that Pam Bondi's told. We know about the lies the president's told. We know about all the people that are connected to this across all walks of life. Doesn't matter the industry, doesn't matter the part of the world that you live in. The common thread through all of it is white men with power and money. So we've got Elon's name. And I remember this little soundbite from Elon from a few years ago as he sat down with Tucker. And I'll play this for you because it tells us a lot. Tells us a very lot. This is a moment that he had, and I just try to ignore the laughing. That's the worst part of it to me. Try to ignore the laughing. Here's Elon sitting down with Tucker.
What? You're fucked, dude.
I'm fucked. If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way. You can't just be like,
Yeah, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Will I see my children? I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but, you know, I get...
I have no plausible deniability. No, and I've been trashing Kamala nonstop.
Oh, I know.
Here it is again.
If he loses, man, what? You're fucked, dude.
I'm fucked.
Does that make you angry? It should. His name's in there. Contradictions of timing, lies initially that he told, then there's a paper trail, then there's emails based on his own fucking bullshit, his own lies. And then they're sitting there laughing about it. If he loses, I'm fucked. Okay. And we also have, of course, more sound. I think I've got this too, because I want to spend a little bit of time this morning talking about that connection, the Steve Bannon connection, the Elon Musk connection, and how much deeper it actually goes. Let me see if I can find that for you. I think I pulled that sound. Everybody keep tapping, please. Would really appreciate y'all. Where is it? Hang on one sec. Is this it? And then I'm gonna connect some dots between that I didn't even think imaginable about connecting Epstein with Bannon to the Rothschild family and to the Mustache Man. Let me play this sound for you first, though, because I think this is very telling. Because again, when the president surrounds himself with people that are just woefully either unqualified or underqualified or corrupt, you have to ask yourself why. And the why in this case is because of the people that are involved. Where is the sound from Mr. Bannon? Because you need to hear this too. You probably heard this before, but I just want you to hear it. Hang on one sec. And then there's some great reporting from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and then ProPublica, and I'm going to get into that a little bit. It's controversial because I'm not sure if this information is supposed to be public, but I'm going to share it. So fuck it. I'm not afraid. Bring it. Is this the one? I've already played that. I got to find this sound for you guys. Hang on one second. Hang on. Give me 1 second. Everybody keep tapping, please. Need your help to keep us on the FYP. Help us hit that gifting goal today, please, friends. And also, if you want to, hang on 1 sec. I'll do it this way. I'll do it the old-fashioned way. Sorry. All right. And this is a telling moment because of the things that we've just learned recently about this entire fucking network of people. Where is it? Where's that? Similarly, I can't find it right now. I've got it someplace, but Steve Bannon said the same thing. He's speaking to it's like a turning point event, or it's a TP, or it's a CPAC event, and basically said there's people in this room, including myself. If we lose the midterms and we lose at 2028, people in this room are going to jail. So you know what to do. Vote their fucking asses out. Put these predators in jail. Okay, so let's talk about this this wild fucking connection. So there was a series of emails that became available, and we're going to spend a little bit of time now talking about Steve Bannon. A bit of a backstory. So Bannon was receiving advice from Epstein as Bannon defended President Trump in media appearances in 2018. Text messages released, they had become public. From August 17th to August 23rd of that year, the billionaire offender coached Bannon on his messaging and TV appearances. In the released documents, Epstein's email address is shown on an Apple iMessage account while others corresponded as redacted. Context clues such as Fox News appearances, Bannon's firing from the White House in 2017, and Bannon's work on a documentary reveal that he is the other party in the conversation. It's not clear whether the released messages are part of a larger conversation between Bannon and Epstein. The Guardian reached out to Bannon multiple times for comment, but he did not reply. The pair discussed breaking scandals, such as the Michael Cohen case, as well as Bannon's TV appearances on MSNBC. At one point, Epstein offered compliments on how Bannon looked on TV, saying, quote, "You looked so clean cut next to him. I thought I turned on the figure skating channel by accident." Bannon responded, "My come hither look," to which Epstein replied, better than the usual come H-man look. Jeffrey told Bannon, Jeffrey also asked Bannon to come up with talking points to use in media appearances, telling him how to handle critics of Trump's tax cuts. Quote, "We can discuss response to our tax cut criticism. The 83% to the rich is misleading by miles, but it does lean that way." Cash back, pension funds up, texted Epstein. Corporations are not people. Giving corp breaks is perceived as giving it to someone else. Wage inflation can't be the first focus. The additional money in the system first goes to hiring new people. Only afterwards can wages rise. Other revealed messages show that Epstein advised Bannon during Supreme Court, this part here. Other messages revealed show that Jeffrey advised Bannon during Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearings on what questions Christine Blasey Ford, who accused Kavanaugh of sexual assault, should be asked to undermine her credibility. Jeffrey suggested that Ford could be accused of taking medications that cause memory loss. While Bannon doesn't work directly with Trump, the pair still communicate. So think about that. Okay, think about, so again, now we've got Brett Kavanaugh involved in this circle. We've got Clarence Thomas involved in this circle about crimes against, again, allegations. So Steve Bannon being coached by Jeffrey Epstein to tell Brett Kavanaugh how to answer questions, and people on the panel asking him questions during his confirmation, how to go after Christine Blasey Ford. Telling people, say that she took medication and it's memory loss. This is how deep this goes. So that's one side of the Bannon story about how he was literally being coached by a person at this point who'd already been found guilty and already got this sweetheart deal. That guy. Okay. That's fine. No problem. Then the web gets even fucking tighter and more fucking disturbing, okay? Epstein's Rothschilds funded Schmittler's shelter? Email exchange between Jeffrey and Ariana de Rothschild show that. Ariana de Rothschild and J.E. talk about Schmittler living in Rothschild, Epstein-financed homeless shelter in emails. I shit you fucking not. This is how twisted and deep this story goes. More names have since appeared in the newly released batch of the files related to the investigation of the convicted offender, J.E. Amongst the files is an email conversation between Jeffrey and banker Ariana de Rothschild about how Schmittler lived in a shelter funded by the Epstein and Rothschild families. In a post by commenter Adam on X, a screenshot of an email conversation between Epstein and Rothschild dated December the 31st, 2018, shows the two talking about Schmittler lived in a shelter that was funded by 3 wealthy Jewish families during his early days. Rothschild seemed to find this information, which she described as a conspiracy theory, as pathetic. Epstein seemed to reply that it was, in fact, true. This is the exchange. Quote, "I thought you'd find it amusing that in a Harvard class on Schmittler, they told the story of when he was so poor, he lived in a shelter for the homeless and destitute that had been financed by 3 wealthy families, the Gutmans, the Epsteins, and the Rothschilds. It turns out to be accurate." said Epstein. Whether it's a way to say that generosity is not rewarded or that the conspiracy theory still itself exists, quite pathetic, Rothschild responded, signing her name at the bottom of her reply. Quote, first, it turns out to be 100% true. Schmittler was selling his clothes and artwork and living in a shelter funded by Jews. Epstein, Rothschild, and Gutman. No conspiracy. The Epsteins were the Vienna bankers, bought their bank on the ring, hence still Palais Epstein, the convicted financier, responded. The relationship between the late disgraced financier and the Rothschild also extended to business ties. In a document dated October the 5th, 2015, Epstein, through his Southern Trust Company, signed an agreement with the Rothschild Group worth £18.2 million. The agreement was for providing a risk analysis and algorithm-related services, with Epstein identified as the president of Southern Trust based in the U.S. Virgin Islands. This is just crazy to me. And I'm not making any assertions here about anything other than what the reporting tells us. But the story gets really twisted because that information was shared with Steve Bannon. And in an email exchange, hang on one second. One sec. All kinds of technical issues today. My apologies. In an email exchange with Steve Bannon, J.E. writes to Bannon, this is dated December the 30th of 2018. So they talk about how he had to sell his clothes, including a black winter overcoat, and cold drove him to further humiliation, this being the H-man. Huddled in a light jacket late one afternoon just before Christmas, he trudged all the way to Madling in the outskirts of town. It took only two and a half hours to reach his destination. It's a German word, I can't pronounce it. A shelter for the destitute. And by the time he arrived, he was exhausted. His feet were run by a philanthropic society whose principal support was the Epstein family. From J.E. to Steve Bannon. Not only billionaire P3DO, friend of Trump, but also helped Schmittler. Just what I need. I mean, it's insane. It is absolutely insane. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't. Then we make the connection of the dots that Ivana said that one of Trump's only favorite books was Mein Kampf. He used to sit on his bedside table. Now we've got these connections to all these groups that funded shelters for the H-man back in the 30s, right? And then we've got the Rothschild family. So we talk about this, and I don't want this to come across as anything other than what we're reporting on the news, which is going to lead to more anti-Semitism. I'm sure I'm lying. Tony, what am I lying about when I'm reporting information? How is that a lie? Anyway. My point here is how deep this goes. Elon saying, well, if he loses, I'm going to get arrested, laughing about it. Steve Bannon saying the same fucking thing. If he loses, we're all going to jail. What does that tell you? Why would you need to say something like that? Why? And then Steve Bannon responding, great. Billionaire predator friend and now funding Hitler's bunker. Sweet. Just what I need. What? I mean, how deep does it have to go? Again, we know that our friends on the right don't care. So this is an interesting breakdown. ABC did some good reporting on this. Again, going back to the 2007 memo about the arrest. And the reason I'm trying to paint the picture this way for you guys is because I want to focus on the contradictions. And I want to focus on the obvious lies. We don't even have to, it's not even about, yes, we believe survivors. I want that to be front and center. This is what this is about, because justice delayed is justice denied, right? This is all about that. What I'm trying to point out here is because it's easy to make the case that the cover-up is so big because all we have to do is focus on the words. All we have to do is focus on the people that have been talking about it and the claims that they made that are so easily debunked. That's what this is about, all right? So this is, again, from the reported by ABC. 2007 memo laying out Epstein case revealed for the first time. After being shrouded in secrecy for nearly 2 decades, a 2007 draft memo laying out the evidence gathered against J.E. and the argument, hold on, to move forward with a 60-count indictment against him has come to light as part of the document trove released by the Justice Department. The Florida prosecutor who drafted that memo would send it to top brass at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami, including then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta, seeking approval for the proposed extensive charges against a wealthy financier, as well as those whose identities are redacted who may have facilitated his crimes. Quote, Jeffrey is considered an extremely high flight risk from information we have received, a continued danger to the community based upon his continued enticement of underage girls, the memo said. Quote, for these reasons, we would like to present a sealed indictment to the grand jury on May 15th, 2007. That proposed indictment and memo were never pursued in court. It would gather dust in draft form, as Acosta instead negotiated a controversial plea deal with Jeffrey, even as his prosecutors and the FBI were still investigating the case and identifying new victims in other jurisdictions. The FBI was like, we've got the goods. We've got names. This is what we want. But nope. U.S. Attorney steps in. That guy becomes Donald Trump's labor secretary. Is that just a coincidence? Of all the people, exactly, follow the money. Of all the people he could have picked, of all the people who were just as qualified, if not more qualified, why would you pick Alex Acosta? To Tom's point earlier, it's because you need to keep the people who've got a shred of connection to this entire thing as close as possible. That non-prosecution agreement allowed Jeffrey to plead guilty to 2 state charges and avoid federal charges for an allegedly broad pattern of similar misconduct. He served just 13 months of an 18-month sentence in county jail in Florida after the convicted offender was free to enjoy a jet-setting lifestyle and wield influence with major power players on the international stage up until his 2019 arrest. He got out of jail because Alex Acosta negotiated that deal. Period. Non-prosecution agreements. No one else connected to crimes could be prosecuted. That's Ghislaine Maxwell's claim. That if I'm listed as a co-conspirator, then I should not have been prosecuted. That is going to be the justification, in my opinion, for her getting a pardon or a commutation. Well, she was wrongly prosecuted. This is how deep this goes. Acosta has previously defended his decision as geared towards putting Epstein, quote, behind bars. In 2020, the DOJ's Office of Professional Responsibility found that Acosta exercised, quote, poor judgment when he resolved the federal investigation, but cleared him of prosecutorial misconduct. The Trump administration DOJ in 2020, by the way. The draft memo pushing for the federal charges lays out how massage appointments were arranged for Epstein with girls ranging in age from 14 to 23 and the payments they would receive for their services. The girls would also receive a finder's fee of $200 if they recruited other girls. Quote, some girls saw Epstein only once and some saw him dozens of times. The massage services performed also varied. The girls' degree of nakedness and the acts Epstein would perform on them also varied. I won't go any more into detail there. The 45-page draft articulates an array of federal statutes and how Jeffrey's conduct violated them, laying out the robust legal argument, buttressing the proposed charges. It also discusses charges that were considered and rejected. The prosecutor's memo weighs both the strengths and potential vulnerabilities in the case. It includes an analysis of possible credibility issues with some of the alleged victims, which had already been a focus for Epstein's attorneys. The memo said, again, don't believe the victims, but believe the people committing the crimes as they investigate themselves. Got it. Including alleged subsequent substance abuse issues, any criminal records of alleged sex work, and potential varying accounts of Jeffrey's alleged abuse. He was arrested again in July 2019 on federal trafficking charges, and then he apparently died by suicide. So why did he get the NPA? Why did he get the sweetheart deal? Why was the sweetheart deal given to him by Alex Acosta? Why was Alex Acosta then given the nod to be Trump's labor secretary? Why was the sweetheart deal so good that he was allowed to leave jail for 12 hours a day and commit dozens, hundreds, if not thousands of other crimes. But apparently, according to Todd Blanche and Kash Patel, the only two people that committed crimes against children were Jeffrey and Ghislaine. And according to Howard Nutlick, that was one time only, but yet 5 years later, I was emailing him. According to Elon Musk, I didn't have any relationship with him at all, but yet you did, according to emails. It doesn't take much to connect the dots. It doesn't take much. It doesn't. But here we are. Here we are. He's going to get away with it. One way or another. The President of the United States, who, again, if the allegations that we've seen, especially from those that we saw on Friday, if those allegations prove to be true, then you could absolutely connect him to serial unaliving. I hate to say it, but I don't know. You are in the ultimate position of power. He is literally in the ultimate position of power. Do you think, again, would you put anything past him? The lengths to which he and people in his cabinet will do to protect those involved? Of course not. Of course not. Those people are now in government. Those people are making policy decisions. Those people are behind the unaliving of American citizens. Those people are denying justice. Those people are breaking the law as we speak. Again, to protect the people who perpetrated these crimes, allegedly, against girls and boys. Yeah. Once again, the connection to Ghislaine recently with this new reporting about how she's got names. And I think I went through this list. Don't forget, there are 4 women that were connected to the circle of Jeffrey. Their names are Sarah Kellen, formerly Kensington. She was described as a key participant who scheduled appointments and coordinated with victims. She was later identified by federal judges as knowing and being criminally responsible participant in the conspiracy. Why is she not in jail? Why is she not being investigated? Leslie Groff, Epstein's personal assistant. Her name is all over these emails. Obviously, she's in the know. Adriana Ross, described as helping to organize Epstein's encounters with minors. And Nadia Markinkova, often cited as Markinko, referred to in reports as having been brought into the operation by Jeffrey at a young age and then later assisting in recruiting others. What about other people? Are there other people that were brought in at a young age? I don't know. I've heard people talk about Pam Bondi. I have no idea. I'm not saying either way. There's talk about John Benet Ramsey now. This is how fucking wild this thing is. This is how wild this is. That's how big this thing is. This is why we have to continue to talk about it. He gets a non-prosecution agreement. The DOJ was ready to investigate, was ready to get indictments, had the evidence, and Alex Acosta steps in and offers him this sweetheart deal. Yeah, I know. I know the AI pictures of Tom. My point is that I got that. Yeah, I wasn't making that claim. I'm just saying that this is what happens now. When you've got people like Nadia Markinko, who allegedly was brought in at a young age, thus a victim, survivor, and then she became part of recruiting others? Where does it end? Where does it end? I don't know. I don't know. We'll continue to talk about it though. Spoon Joe, how are you today?
Good. I just wanted to allude to something that a guest a couple of people back mentioned about the depth and breadth of this network. If you don't mind, I want to allude back to my Harrison Ford movie Witness, where the kid implicates this guy that turns out to be a cop. And do you remember the movie? You probably do, right?
I do. Yeah.
And if they were to remake that movie, I mean, back then we were outraged at the idea of that happening. What a scandal. But that seems almost quaint now. If we were to remake that movie, that cop would turn out to be, if they'd have to go to the next step, police chief, they have to go to mayor, discover, oh, he's in on it too. Oh no, we better go governor. Okay, we got to go federal, Department of Justice, to try to find someone on the side of truth. And you would keep going higher and higher and get to the very top. And still, I mean, and I would pick Stephen Miller as my particular emblem of this whole thing. Because in the movie, if you had someone like him, he would be like out of casting. He just looks like evil, and people wouldn't believe it. It's like, oh, come on, that guy just, no one's that bad. But they
Agreed.
are. But they are. It's unbelievable. It's like a movie, only much worse.
Agreed.
So that's my take. Sorry, I just wanted to do a little art imitating life, or the other way around here.
I appreciate that, Spoojo. Thanks for jumping in today. Thanks a lot. Be safe out there. It's a really good point. Like it is. You could never write this as a movie script because of who it involves. Because we've got the royal family, and we've got media moguls, and we've got politicians, and we've got Supreme Court judges, and we've got network. We've got people in media, in sports across. I mean, everywhere. If we can say one thing that the Q crowd got right, it was this global cabal. Absolutely. They got it right. And the whole Pizzagate, again, part of some of the threads that we saw was speaking in code and how they ordered particular pizzas. And along those lines, so they might have had their, like every single conspiracy theory, there's always a shred of truth. And here we are, right? Here we are. I don't know. How do I want to say this? I see Emma. I think the biggest thing that we have to continue to focus on is that we believe survivors. And I'm not going to re-traumatize folks. I'll do my best, but we have to continue to remind ourselves and build the picture as to how big this network is. Good morning, friend. How are you today?
Good morning, Steve. I'm great. I'm just now tuning in, but I was actually thinking about this morning on my way of taking my husband to work. Your favorite guy, Mike Johnson, he was so loud about making sure the survivors were protected. Their names were redacted, right? And now that they're not being redacted, now that their faces aren't being redacted, what's Mike saying now?
I know, right?
Just seems a little feign, like worry to me,
Fake outrage. Exactly.
And that's what pisses me off is like the straight hypocrisy from the right. We can't pass this thing for justice because it'll harm the survivors. But now that the survivors are being harmed, we're not going to say anything about it.
Correct. It's a great point. The question is now that he's got his minority or his majority in the House is shrinking even further. People in swing districts, Republicans in swing districts, they've got to distance themselves for this.
Yeah.
They know they can't. So you're going to see, this is going to be an interesting week. The House is back in session. This is going to be an interesting week. Very interesting week.
I agree. But I just wanted to point that out. I love your show and I love your face.
Thank you, friends. I appreciate you. Talk to you later. Bye, work wife. Have a good day. See you later. Bye. It's a good point, right? Because you're being put in the position. So Mike Johnson and others are being put in this position every single day because the lies continue to perpetuate. He was the one that came out. We're gonna make sure that we're gonna be diligent. We're protecting the survivors. And now that it's come out, and where is he? Where is he? Where is he? What's he gonna do? He's a feckless little bitch. He is a feckless little bitch, and he's gonna get his comeuppance. Did I just use that word? I did. He's gonna get it. So, Mike, if you're listening, somebody wants to forward this to me, forward this to you. I'm gonna add you to my list. President Trump, J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Tom Homan, anybody involved in government, whoever you are, Mike Johnson included, John Thune, moderate Democrats who aren't doing fucking shit. I'm Steve. Facts Still Matter, live Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till noon. Fuck all you all. Nuremberg 2.0, you motherfuckers. We see you. We see you. We see you. Every one of them. Every single one of them. I don't care. You cannot intimidate me. You cannot. I don't give a shit. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you knock on my fucking door. I don't give a fuck. I do not fucking care. I don't. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Sure? I'm not all right.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
It's hard,
It's okay.
you know.
I got you.
But in the spirit of do something and in the spirit of sprinkling in some positive news, as you were saying, there was, with the Melania movie coming out, there was a trend going on that everyone should watch the Michelle Obama movie and make it trend. And that worked. It was trending top 8 on Netflix as of last night when I checked. So
that's
that
hilarious.
worked. Yep, it did work. That made me feel happy. Gave me a little bit of hope, you know. And yes, we did do that. I saw somebody in the comments say that. So yes, that was us. We were not going to let her have her moment. We want Michelle Obama to have her moment. So there was that. And then I sent you a message on Discord. You'll see it when you I sent it over, I think on Friday. It's just about Springfield, because the ICE is going to be headed to Springfield, Ohio this week, as early actually as starting today, I believe. So there's like some food banks and stuff. I was hoping maybe we could start like a money drive to donate to the food bank that is local there, to help with the Haitian community, since things are going to get really difficult there. So I sent you some information about that. I was hoping maybe we could do that.
Thanks, Heather. I'll check it out. I must have missed it, but I will check it out, and then I'll reach back to you. I like that idea. I like that idea.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then last but not least, and also in the spirit of do something, my cousin Jordan is going to be running for county commissioner in Nashville. He's going to be running on the Democratic team. The DNC in Nashville reached out to him because they wanted him to, they liked what he was posting on Facebook, and they wanted him to run because it's been Republican for like 35 years and no one's ever had to run against him. So my cousin is running there. So just some good things happening.
I love that. I mean, again, we're starting to see more and more people in the do something spirit. So you've always been on the front lines of do something. So thank you, friend. I will check your message. I appreciate you very much for reaching out.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Talk to you later. I love that. I'll use that as a reminder that we've got in the merch store. You can go to Factsstillmatter, go to factsstillmatter.site, or you'll find the link in the bio. It's the Facts HQ. As it sits right now, and we'll talk about what we can do in support of the Haitian community in Springfield. We've got a couple of merch items with all the proceeds. You'll see it. The Minnesota series. All proceeds from the sales of those items, while we're doing this, will go directly to support canmn.org, which is basically Minneapolis Community Action Network, really doing good things. If you want to support, if you're in a position you can do that, please, and we'll track the receipts. I think we're over $100 so far that we'll donate. But again, we all can do something. So thank you for that reminder, Jen. I appreciate it. And I see Dean here. Oh, not sure where you went. You can request again if you'd like to, Dean. So, just to kind of get back to where we were, to me, it is the network itself that we have to expose, because it's not going to stop, right? It's not going to stop. When you've got billionaires, and now don't forget, we just recently passed 4,000 billionaires globally, and last year alone, they increased their wealth to $2.5 trillion. Okay. So it's not going to stop. As long as white men are in power, as long as the billionaire class is running the world, it's not going to change. So the question is, what do you do about it? You do something. You do anything. You volunteer in your community. You stand with marginalized communities. You get in the breach between them and harm. You fight whatever fight means to you. You bloody your knuckles potentially, figuratively and literally. I will remind people the power of the peaceful protest. What we saw in Minneapolis is a great indicator. Tens of thousands of people showing up, and we get movement. Now, will it change on the ground? Perhaps. I don't know. They're going to move to another city. It's not about fraud. It never was. They don't care about fraud, or they'd be investigating red states. They'd be investigating Mississippi. They'd be investigating Texas. They'd be investigating Tennessee. There's fraud everywhere. It's never been about that. It's been about fear. Fear to do what? Fear to protect the people that are in charge. The president of the United States in the Epstein files more than anyone else. His name is in there more than anyone else. His administration is breaking the law to protect him and others. Full fucking stop. Full fucking stop. A few more layers to this story. Let me see. I did the Howard Nutlick thing. We talked about the Steve Bannon thing. I want to talk about this a little bit more too, because Bannon is in this now. I mean, Bannon's name is all over it. And it's always been all over it. He's been the person. I mean, Steve Bannon is fucking delusional, but he's also a snake, and he's an opportunist. And he will connect to people he knows that can save him, which is partly why he goes on the record. He says, hey, if we lose the midterms or we lose the 2028 election, we're all going to jail. Hundreds of texts over almost a year show MAGA influencer Steve Bannon and convicted offender J.E. workshopping legal and media strategies to protect Epstein from the legal and publicity quagmire that enveloped him in the last year of his life. The texts, released by the House Oversight Committee, show that as early as June of 2018, the pair were devising responses to the gathering storm of public outrage about Jeffrey's criminal history, his favorable treatment by the justice system, and his friendship with powerful figures in business, politics, and academia, including President Trump. Bannon conspiratorially described the renewed scrutiny of Jeffrey as a sophisticated psyop, and over time he counseled Jeffrey in his adversarial response to the media, the justice system, and his victims. All the while, both men were also strategizing how best to promote Bannon's right-wing populist agenda and the political fortunes of his standard-bearer, Donald Trump. In all of Epstein's messages, the identity of his correspondence is redacted, but Bannon's identity in the threads cited or in this reporting is clear from contextual clues, including his documented activities at the time, details of his business and media pursuits, and other disclosures. In one document, the sender's phone number is not redacted, and it is the same number linked to Bannon's in a legal case against Trump advisor Roger Stone. Bannon did not respond to requests for comment. When Elon Musk said earlier this year that Bannon's in the files, and so was Trump, Bannon told The Independent he wanted a special investigator to look into, quote, all the Jeffrey documents. The men were discussing Jeffrey's problems even before he came to a broader public awareness as a notorious criminal with odd connections to the Trump administration. Bannon left the White House in late summer of 2017, but enjoyed a vibrant career as a MAGA influencer. On June 22nd, 2018, days after Jeffrey had been the focus of anti-Trump protest at a Trump speech, the men began discussing the scandal that was beginning to loom over Jeffrey. At first, they treated it as a publicity problem, with Bannon seeing it as an orchestrated campaign. All correspondence is reproduced with typos and unconventional spelling and punctuation in originals. Bannon asked Epstein, quote, who is running this op on you? Something serious is going on. Jeffrey responded, first a protest at Clinton and then at Trump. Lots of people very angry about our friendship. Bannon responded, it's an op, dude. I do this for a living. The pieces that are dropping are deeply researched. This is a sophisticated op. In November, blockbuster coverage of the Miami Herald began highlighting Jeffrey's misdeeds, connections, and the apparent leniency shown to him at center stage. In December, he was not only feeling the heat, but musing about his capacity to damage the Trump administration. On December the 18th, an unknown correspondent tried to reassure Jeffrey's by writing, quote, it will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that. Epstein responded, yeah, thanks. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down. That quote again. Epstein responded, this was the exchange. Quote, "It will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that." To which Jeffrey responded, "Yeah, thanks. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down." In early February 2019, Bannon opened an exchange on the developing story by linking to an item at controversial news site Zero Hedge that quoted Republicans, then Senator Ben Sasse on the matter. Epstein responded, "Yeah, wild," and linked it to a Fox News item covering the same ground. He then asked for Bannon's advice on how to respond. Continue to ignore. Ann Coulter on Hannity. Attack. Op-ed. Not my skill set. Adding, what about the Atunes penning something that suggests indignation and lays out some of the facts? That drives it a week, Bannon responded, causing Epstein to seek clarification. Sasse calling me a child rapist is nuts. Sorry, you mean ignore or respond or make it worse? I think it makes it way worse. You get it. Steve Bannon advising Jeffrey Epstein how to deal with the media onslaught. Epstein saying, listen, I'm the one that can bring him down. I got all the goods. Coaching the Trump administration and those part of the hearing to confirm Judge Kavanaugh as a judge, coming up with lies to tell about Christine Blasey Ford. How deep does it have to go? How deep does it have to go? The reference to Ken is now, later that month in an apparent continuation of the same conversation, a correspondent, apparently Bannon, this document has fewer contextual cues other than referred to in this reporting, counseled, quote, "If you do an interview, it can't be like Johnny does a YouTube. It has to be amazingly professional and perfectly cut and edited." Jeffrey's response acknowledged the depths to which his public image had sunk. Quote, "Woody said he would help edit. Not sure how to stage it, what points to make, but better than trying to do an interview that I have no experience doing. Goal is to humanize me, the monster. Anything written carries little weight." Bannon agreed, and Epstein asked a follow-up question that appealed to Bannon's extensive filmmaking experience. Quote, "Should it be an interview format, interviewed by, or just me? Speaking to the camera, humor, apology, how did I get rich, topics?" There was no direct text response, but elsewhere in their exchanges, there is evidence that the two frequently spoke on the phone. The next day, Jeffrey attacked his victims, writing, quote, "One of the most important facts for the public seems to be the girls used the agreement to get money and only after then try to have it voided." There it is. The coaching from Steve Bannon to go after the girls. That's it. That's the game. Steve Bannon, a public figure in Trump's orbit, a MAGA truth teller, coaching Jeffrey to attack. Go after the survivors. Go after the victims. Go after everybody else but the people that are doing the crimes, like you. But again, nothing to see here. Christine Blasey Ford has her entire reputation tarnished, who was a victim of death threats. People being coached by Steve Bannon, questioning her, dissing her credibility, saying that she had a drug addiction and that she could no longer remember. And Brett Kavanaugh sits on the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas, his name is in these files. How big does it have to get? How deep down does this rabbit hole go? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. To me, it's all part of the plan, right? This was the entire part of the MAGA movement, to protect the people in it, not to make it about anything else other than that. Right? I know. Anita Hill told us. Believe women. So I'm going to play this little expose from, I've played this creator before. I really love her work. It's Channel 100 News with Evie. I believe that she is either Australian or from New Zealand. Doesn't matter. But she's going to talk about the truth about the MAGA hat. Now, it's synonymous for something. We identify it as an identifying characteristic, like when we label the MAGA movement to be domestic terrorist organization. It's because it seems like anybody can just do that these days. So when we do have control of the White House again, and we label anybody who has a MAGA hat a domestic terrorist, then it tracks, right? So she's going to give you this little story about the sick truth about the MAGA hat. And I think it's important now because this is what we're talking about, right? It's this network of people, this movement that believes that they are on the right side of history, that they're promoting an America First agenda, that they're talking about making America great, that they want protections for the innocent, right? It's all been a fucking lie, the entire fucking thing. At the core of the MAGA movement is protecting predators. Am I wrong? At the core of the entire thing is protecting predators. All you got to do is look at the people involved. All you have to do is look at the names on the list. All you have to do is connect the dots. Here you go.
Don't just argue. They look political movements don't just argue. They look a certain way. Symbols. Uniforms. Visual cues that tell you who belongs and who doesn't. Over time, these visuals start doing real political work. They signal identity, loyalty, even power, often faster and more effectively than words ever could. And it started with something that was supposed to be harmless, a baseball cap. When the Make America Great Again hat first appeared during the 2016 campaign, it was framed as simple. A baseball cap, a slogan, something you could buy online or pick up at a rally. Supporters often described it as apolitical, or at least non-ideological, a way to show support without getting bogged down in details. That framing, obviously, didn't last. Very quickly, the hat became a high-visibility social signal, something worn not just to agree with Trump, but to be seen agreeing with him. A 2017 Vox piece on MAGA hats in middle schools described how the hat became a form of public confrontation, especially once it appeared in everyday spaces where politics is usually implicit, not shouted. So this wasn't just branding anymore, it was identity technology. Anthropologists noticed it too. In anthropology news, the MAGA hat was described as a curious artifact of contemporary America, an object that condenses politics, emotion, and belonging into something wearable, legible, and deliberately provocative. The hat stopped being about support and started being about presence.
I think that's a really interesting point. Like, it stopped being about support, it became about being presence, right? So to me, right, now that we've got all this information, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that the entire MAGA movement was built to protect predators. Why do you think they fought so hard regarding the 2020 election? Why do you think they've continued this ruse for nearly a decade? Why do you think all the lies that have been told around this are just swept under the rug because it's easy for them to now say it's fake news or the government's weaponized against me? So this red hat has been symbolic. The red hat has symbolized a movement designed to protect predators. I don't think it's a stretch.
As Washington Post fashion critic Robin Givhan put it, the hat was no longer a statement of policy. It had become an inflammatory declaration of identity, carrying historical weight whether the wearer acknowledged it or not. For supporters, the appeal was obvious. It felt rebellious, honest, like reclaiming something that had been taken. For others, especially people of color, immigrants, women, and political opponents, the same object read very differently. Not as neutral patriotism, but as a signal of exclusion and sometimes intimidation. The power of the MAGA hat aesthetic at this stage lay in its ability to present itself as kind of normal, as just American, while quietly acting as a boundary marker for who belongs and who doesn't. This is where
I'm going to pause right there for a second, all right? And I'm going to give you a name because I think this is relevant for this point in our particular story. The name I'm going to give you is Riley T. Carter, okay? So Riley T. Carter is a hardcore Trump aficionado. So this is Mr. Carter, all right? This is Mr. Carter. This is Riley T. Carter in a variation of his red hat. You see what it says, right? So capture that picture. Don't want to leave it up for too long. This is Riley T. Carter, okay? Again, the variation of the red hat. How interesting is it that when you find out somebody who, you really find out someone's character. A jury has found former Aberdeen City Councilor Riley T. Carter guilty of all charges: 3 counts of rape of a child in the first degree, 3 counts of incest in the first degree, 1 count of child molestation in the first degree, and 1 count of incest in the second degree in a Grays Harbor County Superior Court trial that lasted just 4 days. Right? Right? So the red hat then you become part of the club, right, Mr. Carter? Okay. Just wanted to pause there.
Whiteness operates as an unmarked aesthetic. Flags, eagles, red, white, and blue typography, they feel neutral to insiders because they align with a long-standing visual default of American identity: familiar, patriotic, apolitical, until they aren't. When an aesthetic is experienced as neutral, it doesn't have to argue for itself. It doesn't have to explain. And when it's challenged, that challenge is easily reframed as an attack, not on a political position, but on America itself. In simple terms, I'm just wearing this MAGA hat and this shirt with an eagle on it because I love America, not because I'm racist. Do you know what I mean? Quick pause for something fun, because a lot of you keep asking where to actually talk about this stuff as it's happening, or asking if I'm even a real person, saying I'm AI. Well, good news. We've launched a Discord for the channel. Yay! Discord, yay! It's a space to hang out with other like-minded people who care about politics and culture and media without having to scream into the comment section or anything. We can chat about news as it's breaking, share your thoughts on the stories we're covering, and you can give me feedback on future videos directly. And yes, you can tell me how good my hair looks, if that feels important to you. I mean, just if you want to. Scan the QR code on screen or hit the link in the description. It's going to be fun, and I can't wait to hang out with you guys. Yay! Okay, back to the hats. Crucially, the hat didn't radicalize people overnight. It worked because for a while there, it didn't look radical at all. A 2021 political science study by David Graham found that among white Americans, endorsement of white nationalist beliefs strongly predicted willingness to wear a MAGA hat alongside high faith in Trump. But in other words, the object wasn't just reflecting identity, it was sorting it. That's what made the hat such an effective gateway symbol. Or just to annoy liberals, or literally just to be a dick. And in doing so, you would begin participating in a shared visual language that didn't require ideology, just affect, resentment, nostalgia, defiance. This is why gateway symbols are so effective and so hard to challenge.
What we're listening to is a YouTuber that I found, Channel 100 News with Evie, or E-V-I-E, Evie. And the title of this particular portion is The Sick Truth About the MAGA Hat.
They allow people to move closer to a political identity without ever feeling like they've crossed a line. There's no moment where you have to say, yes, actually, I do believe this now. You can just wear the hat. And over time, those small acts, that ambiguity made the aesthetic portable, expandable, and also ready to absorb new meanings. That ambiguity, though, didn't survive because after 2020, everything changed. Trump lost the election. The MAGA aesthetic didn't disappear. It mutated. The hat stayed, but it stopped being enough. Flags flipped upside down. The symbols grew darker, and people started wearing costumes instead of clothing. What began as just a hat evolved into patriot cosplay, a visual performance of grievance and belonging designed not to win arguments, but just to be seen. The symbolism's shifting sands. Political symbols' dominance of grievance and
I want to pause there quickly because it talks about wanting to be seen, right? So from a political science perspective, we know that a lot of people that were drawn into Trump's orbit were people who felt politically homeless, right? They were aggrieved white men for the most part. They're watching society change. They're watching society become woke. They're watching progress. They're watching women become more prominent across the country. They're seeing marginalized communities outpace them, outwork them. So aggrieved white man, a calling card, a reach out to join our cause was the red hat. So it symbolized something for them. Now we can see what we know as it connects to, believing survivors, justice delayed is justice denied, is that it is I'll say it. It is a nod to people who protect predators. You're part of this group too. We're protecting the predators. They'll never admit that, but that's what it's become. That's it.
belonging designed not to win arguments, but just to be seen. The symbolism's shifting sands. Political symbols don't stay still. They drift. They collect meaning. They get reused and they get repurposed, often without anyone consciously directing it. After 2020, the MAGA aesthetic entered its most important phase, mutation. Before the loss, the visual vocabulary was relatively simple. You got your red hat, you got your flag, you got your Trump merch. It was loud but legible. After January 6th, that simplicity didn't hold. The hat remained, but it was layered with new symbols like blacked out or upside down flags, Gadsden flags, thin blue line imagery, Norse symbols, military surplus gear, Punisher skulls, religious references, conspiracy-adjacent slogans. As National Geographic documented in its breakdown of the Capitol attack, many of these symbols functioned as inside visual handshakes, recognizable to those who knew what they meant while remaining plausibly deniable to everyone else. And that ambiguity of it, that was the point. That's what they wanted.
It's like it's the proverbial secret handshake. So all this symbolism connected to this particular movement, people really felt like they're in on something. I don't feel sorry for them. It's just obvious they were indoctrinated. It's a perfect example. I mean, so many things. It became symbolic. It became part of something. As human beings, we are social creatures. We seek community. I've given you this example before, right, about how the tribal nature of humans. And if I've repeated myself, I'm sorry, I've told this story before, but there's a great book. It's called Tribe. And they discuss it in terms of the Blitzkrieg, the Battle of London. And during the Blitzkrieg, you've got all these factions all across England, all across London, right? Communities that in general would just despise each other. They were all forced underground. They were all forced to create a new tribe. They worked together with a common goal of surviving. That's what they did. They survived. And as soon they created bonds, they created a new community. And as soon as the war stopped, they left the tribe and then went back hating each other again. Ironically enough, right? Human nature. In this particular case, people see those of us who are not connected to MAGA as anti-American, as anti-patriot, as anti-women, anti-children, anti-democracy, anti-constitution. And we know full well that it is exactly the opposite. It's projection because of what they claim to stand for, even though they don't. But more importantly, what they're protecting, what they're conserving, right?
Most of these symbols weren't invented by extremists. They were borrowed from American history, then nudged slightly in a new, more crazy direction. The American flag, for example, was flipped upside down and reframed as a sign of distress. Over time, that gesture spread from fringe context into mainstream right-wing protest culture. The Gadsden flag followed a similar path years earlier. Once a Revolutionary War symbol, it gradually accumulated new meanings as it was adopted by libertarian, Tea Party, and far-right movements. And as the New Yorker noted, the symbolism shifted not because history changed, but because the audience did. Whose patriotism gets to be neutral? Much of this visual language works because whiteness functions as the unmarked default in American patriot aesthetics. Flags and nationalist imagery feel normal, even comforting, to those who see themselves reflected in the historical center of the nation. That's why the same symbol can feel innocuous to one group and threatening to another. Vox explored this in a 2025 piece on black artists reclaiming the American flag. Patriotic imagery carries radically different emotional weight depending on who is allowed to claim it without suspicion, and who isn't. The MAGA aesthetic leans into that asymmetry. By framing its symbols as just America, it becomes difficult to challenge them without being cast as anti-American, or worse, as an outsider.
Porn addiction turns high IQ.
I love what the way she breaks things down is the way that my brain works. Like let's talk about let's connect what we know, what we see, to what it means, right? So in the frustrating part for all of us, especially because this entire show today is about the fact that we believe survivors, and we don't have to talk about the horrible allegations of crimes because they're disgusting and they're vile, and I'm not going to expose our audience to it. If you're interested in it, you can find it. It's out there. The point is that the people that are connected to the MAGA movement truly believe that they are standing up for people. They're not. They are protecting people. The people that they are protecting will never invite them to the ballroom, will never invite them to Mar-a-Lago, will never invite them to the glitzy Hollywood parties, will never get to go to events. Instead, those people that are being protected are relying on the people in the red hats to protect them, no matter what. No matter what. No matter what we tell you to be true, even though we know it's a lie, even though we've lied to you across the board, even though we've told you that everybody involved in the Jeffrey situation is everybody but the president, and they still believe it no matter what they see. And the symbol and the glue and the sort of the element that pulled everyone together is the fucking red hat and the flag and the truck nuts and everything else. I know, Carolyn, you're right. It's really difficult to wrap our mind around it. We see it though. We've been studying it. Symbolism is connected to so first pull. Know what its history is. The conservatives don't want to talk about that because they say, what's wrong with what's wrong with putting America first? Why are you guys so against making America great again? First of all, when's America been great for everybody? I don't know. But more importantly, it's because what your symbol now represents because of the people that you are protecting. That's the worst part to me.
Is just America, it becomes difficult to challenge them without being cast as anti-American, or worse, as an outsider.
Exactly.
January 6th didn't invent the symbolism, but it collapsed the distance between what these visuals suggested and what they were being used to justify. Weaponizing aesthetics, from protest to performance. When grievance becomes aestheticized, persuasion stops being the goal. Visibility replaces legitimacy. Recognition replaces agreement. You don't win by convincing others. You win by being seen, recorded, and remembered. That is the logic that everything else now follows. At a certain point, political symbols stop communicating belief and start demanding attention.
Correct.
The look no longer just signals identity. It stages a moment, something to photograph, something to share, something to remember. What unfolded at the Capitol wasn't just an attempted disruption of democracy, it was a spectacle. Bodies arranged for cameras, live streams, and history. Many of the outfits didn't resemble everyday clothing. They resembled characters. Tactical vests with no function. Camouflage far from any battlefield. Punisher skulls. Colonial costumes. Horns. Furs. Face paints. Flags worn as capes. Kid-ass vibes. They weren't practical looks for invading the Capitol. They were costumes, shortcuts to strength, legitimacy, and moral clarity. Modern protest doesn't just happen in public, it happens for media. A Washington Post opinion piece on protest performance notes that fashion, music, and visual drama now function as political tools precisely because they travel well online. The MAGA aesthetic understands this instinctively. You don't need to explain the message. The image does the work. This is also why aesthetics escalate. Once visibility becomes the goal, subtlety stops paying off. The image has to be brighter, louder, more extreme to cut through the feed. In an attention economy, moderation doesn't travel, spectacle does. And when political identity is shaped by what performs well online, escalation isn't a mistake, it's the incentive. This visual logic also explains why MAGA aesthetics lean so heavily into defiance. Wearing the hat into hostile spaces, showing up armed or dressed as if you're armed, or when they were all refusing masks, even though now apparently they love masks.
Exactly.
Each act is designed to generate friction, to provoke reaction, to confirm the sense of siege. It's just a joke. It's just a costume. It's just a hat. It's just a flag. Until it isn't. Look at the current situation in the United States of America. Is it a joke? Is it just a hat? Aestheticized grievance and the need to be seen. Aestheticized grievance and the need to be seen. By this stage, the visuals aren't decorative, they're doing emotional work. Many people drawn to MAGA aesthetics struggle to articulate exactly what they've lost. It's not always money or status. It's the feeling of being overlooked or dismissed, or for a lot of these men, treated as culturally obsolete.
I think that a lot of the white men that have been drawn to the movement literally are being considered culturally obsolete. Now, I don't prescribe to the whole the male loneliness epidemic. I think it's fucking bullshit. I think it's whiny, cranky men complaining about something. The ultimate self-inflicted shoot ourselves in the foot moment. But she's right about so much of this. We've discussed this before. It becomes this. It's almost like the club. Like I said, like you know the secret handshake, or you know the password, and you feel like you're part of something, right? So, as we've discussed before, Trump did not make America like this. Because America is like this, we got Trump. And we all have to own that. We all have to take a page out of the right's playbook when it comes to how we proceed going forward, right? I want to use a fucking hammer when it comes to getting the change that we want in our country. We don't need to unite around a flag or a symbol or a movement other than standing up for things that we feel like are important. Because that's what MAGA has done. That's what the Trump administration, Tucker Carlson, the right-wing echo chamber, Steve Bannon, that's what they've done. They've been able to convince 77 million people, mostly mediocre white men, mostly them, that being part of this movement is the ultimate. You have arrived. You stand for something. We see you. From a political strategy perspective, brilliant. No doubt about it. Objectively speaking, if I were to be asked to score it, I'd give it 12 out of 10 because it worked. 3 times. Worked so much that it flipped the election map. Now we can talk about 2024. The more and more I read about it, the more and more I'm convinced that there's some nefarious activity connected to it. But yeah, it's Carolyn. Diabolical is a good word. It worked. And again, what was the goal? The goal wasn't to win elections. No. The goal was to change democracy forever. And at the at the foundational level of that is protecting predators. Protecting the billionaires who are abusing girls and boys. Protecting the entire fucking network. From heads of state to celebrities to banking executives to politicians, to sports heroes, etc. The entire thing, the entire movement sold to tens of millions of people that this person that they idolize, that they worship, is standing in the breach with them, fighting against radical leftists, fighting against communists, fighting against Marxists, fighting against immigrants. But meanwhile, they built this network to abuse kids and protect each other, mocking their own voters as they get richer and richer and richer and richer. I don't think what I just said is a stretch. Objectively speaking, I don't think it's a stretch. There's people who are hardcore, red hat wearing MAGA are the epitome of anti-American, and they don't know it. They don't realize it. They don't. They believe that because they've got their blue line flag, or that they've got their 1776 or their red hat or whatever it might be, they truly believe, because they've been convinced to believe, hello sir, because they've been convinced to believe that they are about America first, and they're not, because everything they stand for is against everything that they grew up believing. And now they are in an environment, and now they are in a world, and now they are part of a movement that is protecting predators. And they won't believe it, no matter if there's a camera in the room or not. They will just not believe it. So, to summarize, the MAGA movement won. They won because of what they achieved. They won because they are protecting predators. They won because they are diminishing brown people in every marginalized community. They won because they were able to convince tens of millions of Americans that the people who despise them the most are the ones that they're protecting. Make it make sense.
When people lack language for anxiety, they turn to symbols. The MAGA aesthetic offers a shortcut. Grievance can be felt and worn and displayed to everyone with no explanation needed. For many people inside of this aesthetic, the grievance feels real, even if the explanations for it are completely distorted. Dismissing the look as stupid or embarrassing may be true, but misses the point. The aesthetics aren't about fashion sense, obviously. I mean, look at them. What they are about is recognition. Yeah. They're about forcing a world that feels indifferent to look back at you. Yeah. That's why the exaggerated visuals make sense. Oversized flags, militarized clothing, hyper-masculine posturing. None of these are signs of confidence. They are signs of overcompensation. And this same logic plays out across all different types of bodies. When certainty feels unavailable, appearance steps in to compensate. Certainty, control, and gender. Aestheticized grievance also offers easy moral clarity. The world just becomes cleanly divided. Patriots and traitors, insiders and outsiders, me in my hat, you with no hat. For people experiencing uncertainty, that clarity is comforting. And let's be honest, a lot of us have experienced uncertainty in the last decade. The New York Times observed in its analysis of Trump-era style, MAGA aesthetics rely on recognizable archetypes. The warrior, the patriot, the strong leader, repeated until they feel
all hyper-masculine imagery. The warrior, the fighter, the patriot. All about hyper-masculine imagery, right? You could draw it up. The Marlboro Man, if you will, right? Rough around the edges, can of chewing tobacco in their back pocket, right? And they've used that. And they've used that imagery to try to say, unless you look like this, you're not American. You're not. These guys, if you look like this, you're the protector of women. You're the protector of children. I work hard. I get my hands dirty every day. I'm out in the fields. I'm doing man shit. It's ultimately the hyper-masculine imagery. And those hyper-masculine types, the archetypes specifically, have been drawn to this movement, the movement where now they are protecting predators because they have sold their soul. Yeah, somebody pointed this out. It's the middle-age crisis. The middle-age crisis used to involve going out and buying a Porsche Boxster. Now it's putting on the red hat and protecting predators. Hyper-masculine imagery, red pilling, the patriarchy. It's all related to this. Think about, if you were to ask yourself this question, and I ask you to be honest, you guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. If you were to close your eyes and create in your mind, what's the first thing you think of when you think of who's wearing the red hat? We've seen it. We all know. And it's those people who genuinely feel that they are part of something, in defense of something, to protect something. But here we are. Here we are. We are now at a spot where this entire movement is now about protecting abusers and, in some cases, unalivers of children, girls and boys. But yet, unless you're in the movement, you're not a patriot.
Inevitable. This logic extends to gender. In mega-aligned spaces, women's aesthetics often
I'm going to back up.
What they are about is recognition. They're about forcing a world that feels indifferent to look back at you. That's why the exaggerated visuals make sense. Oversized flags, militarized clothing, hyper-masculine posturing. None of these are signs of confidence. They are signs of overcompensation. And this same logic plays out across all different types of bodies. When certainty feels unavailable, appearance steps in to compensate. Certainty, control, and gender. Aestheticized grievance also offers easy moral clarity. The world just becomes cleanly divided. Patriots and traitors, insiders and outsiders, me and my hat, you with no hat. For people experiencing uncertainty, that clarity is comforting. And let's be honest, a lot of us have experienced uncertainty in the last decade. The New York Times observed in its analysis of Trump-era style, MAGA aesthetics rely on recognizable archetypes. The warrior, the patriot, the strong leader, repeated until they feel inevitable. This logic extends to gender. In mega-aligned spaces, women's aesthetics often emphasize hyperfemininity, like long hair and heavy makeup, sculpted bodies, a lot of work done. Mar-a-Lago face. The New York Times has described this MAGA beauty as reinforcing traditional gender hierarchies pushed to cartoonish extremes.
So you think about the hypermasculinity for men, and then the Mar-a-Lago face for women. I mean, they're studying this now, right? There's a type. Do we think it's a coincidence that Usha Vance and Caroline Leavitt and Katie Miller are all pregnant at the same time? Do we think it's a coincidence that we see a lot of the same type of makeup? The same type of work done, as she put it? This is indoctrination. This is full-blown changing society. The traditional, archetypal, masculine, hyper-masculine man and the trad wife. That's it. That's what they want. That is the go spank it in the corner wet dream for conservative Christians. That's it. And because they feel like they're part of this movement, no matter what, everything can be justified because they stand in the breach in support of kids, so they claim. Because they say, I don't want men in women's bathroom. Or what about Biden? Meanwhile, their president, their hero, the leader of their entire movement is a predator, an abuser of women, a sexual assaulter, a criminal, a fraud, and is the #1 reference in the entire world's largest trafficking scandal, the Jeffrey Files. Am I wrong? When you think about it this way, when you look at the archetypes, think of Laura Trump. They talk about the Mar-a-Lago makeover. There's a type, right? There's a type. And we certainly know of the type on, the hypermasculine man. We talk to them all the time. They'll use threats. They'll be like, you wouldn't say that to my face. Yeah, I would. Because you're all soft. You're all cowards. You're all weak. And you have no idea why people don't believe you. You have no idea why some people choose not to platform you. You have no idea why you get mocked. The reason you get mocked is because we see who you are. We know what you claim to stand for and what you actually stand for, and you don't even know it yourselves. I think the biggest indicator of this is how the goalpost moves on this story, the Jeffrey Files. Initially, it started as, we love Trump because Trump's going to expose the global cabal. Then when he gets in office and little drips and drabs of information starts to come out, when we see his name on flight logs and we see his name connected to Jeffrey Files and we get Jeffrey Epstein on the record saying, I was Donald's closest friend, then it became, well, I mean, that's just, our relationship ended and we were never really that close. Then it became more references to the documents, and Pam Bondi comes out with a speech. So we've got everything. We know that was a lie. Then the book, and then the MAGA voters couldn't believe the birthday book because Trump told them it was a lie. Then he's going to sue the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal said, bring it on. Come to find out, it wasn't a hoax. Then we get survivors' testimony. So that didn't work because that argument didn't fly because it couldn't be a hoax if Bill Clinton's name is in it. So then you move the goalposts even further, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And here we are on Groundhog Day. What happened with the groundhog, by the way? Did he see winter? Doesn't matter. That's for all you all. We'll get snow on the ground until May up here, and now we get this hyper masculine. Don't forget. This is all related. Let me see if I can find this. This is related. Because there's patterns with everything, and it's again, they've played the long game. The right has been invested in this change in our society, and we know this to be true because of some of the imagery that they use to attract people to their movement. They create this perception that unless you're either with us or you're against us, and then they create advertising campaigns for the Department of Labor to create the nuclear family, the trad wife, the masculine male. In service to his country, going out there and fighting for the rest of us. And there's another one. This is the one that really kind of grinds my gears, because to me, you can draw a straight line back to the church, and you don't have to believe me. You can just believe the imagery, the messaging that they send out. Right? Where's that one picture? This one. Right here it is. Here you go. These are ads that were put out by the Department of Labor. You got the family down here. You got the white picket fence. And what's above it all? The church. Imagine that. The church. The church. At the core of all of it. At the core of all of it. Here we are. 2026. The economy is falling apart. American citizens are being murdered in the street. Civil rights are being violated, constitutional rights are being violated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the MAGA movement has become this hyper-masculine experiment with their trad-wife partners who are protecting predators. And yet they call themselves Christians. Yeah.
Strength and certainty performed differently but serving the same purpose. Beyond the red hat. By now, the MAGA aesthetic isn't just a look, feels like a cult. It's a coping mechanism, a performance of loss, a way to turn anxiety into identity. And like all aesthetics built on grievance, it doesn't resolve what hurts underneath. It just keeps it visible. If politics becomes nothing more than how we look to one another, who belongs, who doesn't, who gets to feel at home, then the real loss isn't decorum. It's the possibility that democracy ever required more than a costume in the first place. And I'm saying this quite obviously about an ICE agent and a random kid they're probably going to lock up today. It never was just a hat. If you're interested in how politics actually works now, not just who wins elections, but how people are shaped.
There you go. Again, that's Channel 100 News with Evie or Evie. God, I'd love to get her on the show. The sick truth about the MAGA hat. So, how do I want to say this? with Trump being at the center of this, of course, he is willing, has already shown us, able in many instances, to be able to continually lie to the base under the premise that you are part of something, they are against it. Whether it be in Minneapolis, whether it be in Springfield, Ohio, whether it be anywhere, whether it be in the news, whether it be on television, whether it be in social spaces, it doesn't matter. It's a clear line. You are with us or you're against us. I'm against you. I'm against you. Because you think you stand for something, but you don't. Well, you do. You stand for the protection of people who are violating children, period. And your argument has always been that those crimes against kids happen on the left. Yeah, some do, sure, no doubt about it. I don't give a shit your political affiliation. Crimes against children are crimes against children. The difference is the party in power right now is doing everything possible to protect those predators. Everything possible, including breaking the law. Day 45 of the Department of Justice under the Trump administration breaking federal law. But waste, fraud, and abuse. But Renee Good had her car parked at a 45-degree angle. But Alex Preddy was helping a woman who got shoved to the ground, got pepper sprayed. But that could be a background. But, and here we sit. Here we sit. Millions of Americans in bankruptcy, losing their home, losing their health insurance, SNAP benefits being cut, Medicaid, Medicare programs being cut, USAID being cut. And what's the result? Tens of millions of Americans protecting predators. Yeah, Kamala had a weird laugh. What about Biden? Black man in a tan suit, the way Joe ate ice cream. Didn't read Kamala's policy. Kamala slept her way to the top. I want you to be angry. I really, really want you to be angry. But I want you to channel your anger. I want you to channel it into doing something. I want you to channel it into getting involved more in your politics. Understanding what's at stake. Understanding who it is that we're fighting for. Who it is that we're actually defending. I don't want no more pearl clutching. No more purity tests when it comes to political candidates. We have got to start understanding that what we are witnessing is partly our own fault. Yeah, you're right, Ollie, that women are too emotional. Exactly. Another one. Yeah, right. Part of it is our own fault. This is what happens. And again, objectively speaking, the right knew that. They're like, you know what? The American electorate's lazy. As long as we can find something for them to hate, they'll just go along with the ride, because most of them will talk a good game, but they won't show up when the time comes, and we'll take advantage of that. So the question is, what do we do? And do you know who this movement is afraid of the most? Do you know who MAGA Christian conservatives and those people who are literally ruining our democracy, do you know who they're afraid of the most? You know. Women. Always at the front of their hatred, always at the front of their disdain. They are afraid, they are deathly afraid of women. They know they are already outnumbered. The question is, Queens, what are you going to do? Especially white women. We've asked a lot from our black sisters. They're done. They're like, you know what? We've been out there fighting forever. We have been out there fighting. We've given you the script. We've told you how to move differently. You've watched us move differently. You've watched us stand even knowing full well that we're going to be assaulted, we're going to be imprisoned, we're going to be raped, we're going to be murdered, we're going to be disappeared, and we're still coming out and we're still doing it. And where are the accomplices? Where are the accomplices? It's long past time. The question is, are you ready to put it in fucking gear and hit the gas? Because if you don't, this continues to happen. Because if you don't, more men are going to get away with this shit. Because if you don't, you're not going to get education reform. You're not going to get healthcare reform. You're not going to get a tax code that works for the middle class. You're not going to get affordable housing. You're not going to get affordable college. You're not going to get protection for marginalized communities. You're not going to get it propped up. You're not going to get propped up subsidies to help poor people. You're just not going to get it. You're not. And white men, don't think I'm easing off on you, because you're more responsible, in fact, because you all just consider it locker room talk. What am I supposed to do? You know what you're supposed to fucking do? You're supposed to call the fucking shit out. I don't care what circle you're in. I don't care what waters you swim in. I don't fucking care. I don't care. You have to call it out. And you have to participate, and you have to get involved, and you have to fucking vote, and you've got to support candidates, and you have to walk into a voting place, and you make sure your neighbors know where to register, how to register, who they're voting for, and you fucking vote blue. And you don't worry about your hand wringing, and you don't feel like you're dirty. You just fucking do it. You do it. And then you wake up the next morning and you look at your neighbors and you look at the people in our country that are being harmed every single day as a white man or as a white woman, and you say, you know what? I voted for them. I voted for them. I don't necessarily agree, and that may not be the perfect candidate, but I voted for them because I know that if I don't, this shit is going to continue to happen. You have no fucking choice. None. No choice. No choice. No excuses, no whining, no complaining. You just need to do it. I'm so tired of excuses. I am so tired. Well, you know, it's two wings of the same bird. Miss me with that fucking bullshit. Miss me with it. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. 77 million people could put a predator in the White House, a twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing, fraudster, convicted felon, name on a fucking list predator. 77 million people can put him in the fucking White House, and entitled leftists can't get over themselves and decide to vote third party? Really? 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 You have to be willing to fight, and you have to be willing to move differently. We discussed this last week about how you cannot take the fucking bait in cities where you see ISIS presence. You can't do it. You cannot make their job easier. You have to be there to say, I'm going to raise my voice. I'm going to call shit out. And if I get arrested, I get arrested. You think I'm nervous about going on the road? You're damn fucking right I am. You're damn right. I'm going anyway. Don't give a fuck. Don't care. I don't care. Do I receive death threats every day? Every fucking day. I don't care. There is too much to fight for. There is too much, never mind too much to fight for, there's too much to lose. And I can't do it by myself. Cannot do it by myself. Where is everybody? When are you going to wake up and say, enough's enough? Enough's enough. Watching blood spill in schoolrooms and classrooms across the country wasn't enough. Watching January 6th wasn't enough. Watching Donald Trump say, I've got sex in common with my daughter wasn't enough. Listening to him brag about grabbing women by the pussy wasn't enough. We know what the MAGA movement stands for. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care what they stand for. It doesn't matter because they don't stand for shit. I am asking people who are disgusted by what we see, where the fuck are you? Where are you? And if not us, who? If not now, when? I don't know. Look for the helpers. 5 Calls app. Contacting your local representatives. I know that voting's not even close to enough. I get it. I totally understand that. I get it. That's why this do something thing is taking on a life of its own, right? People are hopefully people are feeling inspired to show up at town hall meetings, to show up at school board meetings, to show up at events. That's the first thing you can do, right? You show up. And then you show up again. And then you convince somebody else to show up. And then they convince somebody else to show up. And all of a sudden we have this movement. And then we start talking about getting voter registration to increase. We're not talking about big numbers, right? We're not talking about big numbers. In such a divisive country, we're not talking about big numbers. We're talking about 1 or 2% of non-voters re-engaging. Or 1 or 2% of conservatives converting. I get asked this question a lot, like, why am I focused on, who am I focused on, and whose minds I want to change? As you know, I want to go after non-voters. Now, when I'm out talking to people, wherever it might be, in Appalachia or in the Ohio River Valley or in Arkansas, Missouri, Northern New England, it doesn't matter. I can't just only talk to non-voters. That's the goal, right? But I want people to be able to be aware of what's happening. Because I know face-to-face, it's going to be a lot more difficult to deny what we see. Like, you can't possibly stand for someone who's refusing to release these files, right? Put them on the spot. Make them answer the question. We're not talking about a lot of people whose minds we need to change here. We're not. I genuinely feel the Senate is in play. I really feel. Look what happened in Texas over the weekend. Look what happened in Tennessee. Look what's happening everywhere. Look what happened in Georgia. Look what happened in Michigan. Look what happened in Minnesota. All these things are indicative of what it takes when people show up. Got to keep the same energy. We have no choice. Okay, let's see if anybody in the box requested. Real quickly, let me thank a few people. Heather, thank you as always. I appreciate you. Amy, thank you very much. I appreciate you too. You guys are all so kind. Tom, thanks, bro. Appreciate you. Lisa and Rex, I didn't get you guys from yesterday. My apologies. I think that's everybody. Yes. Just as a reminder, if you do decide you want to support Minnesota, if you go to the link, it's in the merch that's in the link tree. It's Facts HQ, or you can go directly to factsstillmatter.site. You'll see a series of items. There's new merch in there about human rights. You see anything that's connected to the Minnesota project, you'll see it. There's a couple of merch items. Sale of any of those items, all proceeds go to support canmn.org. It's a community action network in Minneapolis doing great work. And speaking of Minneapolis, this story is going to cause a lot of ketchup throwing. Progressive news outlet The Nation has nominated Minneapolis for the Nobel Peace Prize. Progressive outlet The Nation is nominating the city of Minneapolis for the Nobel Peace Prize in the wake of tensions over immigration policy. In a Wednesday piece, The Nation's editor stated that they are, quote, they are in the process of formally nominating the city of Minneapolis and its people for this year's prize. The piece also includes a nomination statement addressed to the Norwegian Nobel Committee to be sent Friday. Quote, through countless acts of courage and solidarity, the people of Minneapolis have challenged the culture of fear, hate, and brutality that has gripped the United States and too many other countries. Their nonviolent resistance has captured the imagination of the nation and the world. Renee Good's widow has said, they have guns, we have whistles, the statement reads. Those whistles alert the residents of Minneapolis when they are threatened, but they've done more than that. They've awakened Americans to the threat of violence that extends from governments that unjustly and irresponsibly target their own people, the statement continues. Yeah, it was nonviolent resistance. Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine? Can you imagine if the city of Minneapolis wins the Peace Prize? Can you imagine what that would do? There would be ketchup fucking everywhere, and I'll be here for it. Okay, a few other things here. I'm gonna play this for you because this goes to show you how out of touch our current administration is. Actually, before I do that, let me just play some brief sound from Brian Schott, because Brian Schott, senator from Hawaii, who I really like. I'd like to see more of him. He was pressing Marco Rubio last week when they were talking about the Venezuela oil transaction. This is crazy.
Ask about the oil. Under U.S. law, funds received by the government must be deposited with the Treasury. Earlier, you testified that the funds are being held short-term in Qatar and then will move to a Treasury blocked account. What is the statutory authority for the administration relying on Qatar to hold the funds?
It's not our funds. The funds are in an account that's owned and signed. It's an account that belongs to Venezuela, but it has U.S. sanctions as a blocking mechanism on it. And one of the primary reasons why it was in a third country initially, until we could create the mechanism to move it to a U.S. presence, is twofold. One, we have an issue we're working through on recognition. What is exactly, you have to recognize a government, but we don't recognize this government. We recognize the 2015 National Assembly. So we have to find some creative way legally to meet that standard. The other is frankly creditors. If any of that money touched a U.S. bank, even if it was an account in the name of the Venezuelans, it would immediately be seized upon by a number of creditors who eventually will have to take care of. But in the short term, that would impede the ability of the Venezuelan authorities to receive the funds they need to operate.
So do you have the, I mean, this is what I'm trying to get at, right? Either it's American money, in which case it's subject to the Miscellaneous Receipts Act, and there are all kinds of things that attend to that. You're saying it's Venezuela's money, but it does sound like, according to the EO, according to the president's statements, you are in charge of that money. What authority are you relying on to be in charge, almost in a sort of receivership kind of arrangement of how funds are both received and expended for a foreign country? Like, wouldn't you have to come to Congress to establish that kind of relationship?
Well, no, because the money never enters our hands. We only control the disbursement of the money. We don't control the actual money.
Sure, but if
it comes into our bank account.
Do you think that you have somewhere in the statute or the Constitution the authority to control disbursements of a foreign country?
Well, they've agreed to this, and that's the key. They've agreed to this arrangement in which the sanctions that are placed on this oil is what blocks its distribution. So we've agreed to release sanctions and allow the disbursement of the funding as long as they're spending it in a certain way.
So
this is why they want it offshore. Somebody asked the question in the chat. This is why they want it offshore. And whenever we play sound now, right? Whenever we go through these, whenever I try to do these breakdowns for you and I play these sound, I don't want you to ever forget, okay, that this administration is protecting predators. I don't want you to ever forget that. We've got to cover the news. We have to talk about Marco Rubio and his shenanigans and about offshore money in Qatar. By the way, Qatar got a sweet deal, don't forget, on access to NVIDIA chips. A sweet fucking deal. Qatar gifts the jetliner to the Trump administration. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that, right? We will always talk about it. Keep in mind, this administration has rallied around the president to protect him and others involved. Yep, he did. And as don't forget, just recently, the president decided he was going to sue the IRS for $10 billion. When question asked by a reporter, and then this is the response, okay? This is the response. $10 billion. Who do you think fucking pays it, MAGA? I saw people celebrating this over the weekend. Did you guys hear Trump suing the IRS? And somebody on the panel, and I forget who they were, and I wanted to reach out to them because they did great. And I said, you understand that if he sues the IRS and he wins, that our taxpayer dollars pays for that. And they said, no, there's a fund. There's a fund with $10 billion in it? Okay.
Administration and the IRS. Why are you suing?
Who are you with?
I'm with ABC News.
You're a loud person. Very loud. Let somebody else have a chance.
Can you answer the question? Why are you suing IRS?
ABC fake news.
You're suing.
Go ahead. I didn't call on you. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Do you think the upcoming
ABC, by the way, is truly one of the worst.
There it is, right? There it is. Suing the IRS because he didn't like the fact that the IRS released some of his tax returns, which completely destroyed his entire argument about this self-made billionaire. That's why he decided to sue the IRS. That's it. That's it. That's his complaint. I'm suing the IRS because they released my tax returns. Well, you little bitch, if you had released your tax returns like every other president has, then we wouldn't have to worry about it. But instead, you want to sue the IRS. Don't forget, he also sued the DOJ for $250 million. I'm not even sure where that lawsuit sits. This guy, in the Jeffrey files more than anybody else, right? More than anyone else. He's all over them. All over them. But his base won't care. They'll just be like, it's great. $10 billion. Gonna sue the IRS. What about Biden, though? Biden and Hunter's cock and $5 million for art. You all libs won't talk about that. Did you hear what I said? $10 billion. He's suing the IRS for $10 billion, which means that if he wins the lawsuit, you have to pay. That's fine. I found 25 cents in my fucking couch after I was eating my Fritos. I'm happy to donate to that president because he's looking out for me. Okay. Out of touch. So here's a little montage of people in his administration who want you to believe that this administration cares about you. You're going to first hear from Scott Bessent, who's worth roughly $600 million.
And dads out there are watching right now, they should sign up now, right, for Trump accounts during this tax season?
Everyone should do it. And it's a great way because you can also, if relatives, rather than giving a toy for a birthday, for a holiday, they can contribute to these accounts.
Again, his net worth is $600 million. And Scott Bessent telling you that, oh, it's fine, this MAGA account, you can just donate money over the course of the year when families are struggling now, Scott. And you don't want food, you don't want free lunches and free breakfasts. Scott.
We've run over
Brooke
1,000
Rollins.
simulations. It can cost around $3 a meal for a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, corn tortilla, and one other thing. And so there is a way to do this that actually will save the average American consumer money. I think the silver lining in all of this is how do we, in our backyards, we've got chickens too in our backyard, how do we solve for something like this? And people are sort of looking around thinking, wow, well, maybe I could get a chicken in my backyard.
Get a chicken in your backyard, says Brooke Rollins. Get a piece of broccoli, a piece of chicken, and a corn tortilla, and maybe something else. Net worth, $20 million. Nice.
Let's say Social Security did.
This is Howard Lutnick, or Nutlick, Jeffrey's neighbor. The guy who said he would never go near him again, but yet he did just a few years later. Got it.
And send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She thinks something got messed up, and she'll get it next month.
Yeah.
A fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining.
Got it.
The easiest way to find the fraudster is to stop payments and listen.
Stop payments. Only fraudsters rely on Social Security, according to Howard Nutlick. And if his mother didn't get her check one week, she wouldn't complain. Okay. Howard Nutlick's net worth? $3 billion. Yeah.
The one thing you need steel. You know, you can give up
Here's the president. This is from December 9th of just last year.
certain products. You can give up pencils, but you always need steel.
Give up pencils.
You don't need $37 for your daughter.
Of course not.
2 or 3 is nice.
Totally fine. You don't need $37. Nope. The president's net worth, at least $5 billion, but his wealth has increased personal wealth, $1.4 billion just since last year. But again, you don't need to buy, you don't need dolls. Don't forget, during the holiday season leading up to it, because they knew how bad the economy was and they knew that people were struggling, they said, if you're over 18, you don't need a present. You don't need to buy your family members things. Again, don't need pencils, don't need dolls. You're fine. Nothing to see here. That's how fucking out of touch they are. Those people setting economic policy, everybody in the cabinet, everybody connected to the Republican Party in D.C., all of them are protecting predators, protecting the P3DOs, protecting the global cabal of sex trafficking, and yet one piece of broccoli, one piece of chicken, a corn tortilla, you can get by on that. Nothing to see here. Totally fine. Totally fine. Don't worry about it. We're all billionaires. We've never shopped for anything a day in our fucking life, but you all can suck it. Hey, Shane.
Hey, Steve. So I wanted to spread a little bit of hope core because you know how I love numbers. So in the last election, when you were specifically talking about the people who didn't vote or third-party voters, 1.8% was the vote percentile difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Less
Correct.
than 2%. In
Correct.
the population, the nation's population, she lost by 0.6% when you look at the United States population count. That means she lost by less than 1%. She ran a campaign for 107 days and almost mopped the fucking floor with the fascist orange sun-dried Louis Vuitton handbag that we have in office now. 240,471 votes. That's all she needed to tip the Electoral College in her favor without winning the popular vote. Less than 250,000 people. That's all she needed, and she would have been president. So when you guys say that your vote doesn't matter, it absolutely fucking does. Because I also want to add in the fact that she lost some districts by no more than 100 votes. Your vote matters. Get the fuck off your couch, fill out your fucking ballot, and do your civic fucking duty instead of sitting in your comfort and your fucking privilege at home. My hope core is the numbers. My rage right now is for you lazy fucks that sat on the fucking couch and let this happen. 240,471 of you couldn't get off the fucking couch and do your goddamn civic duty for the nation of this fucking great place, and you allowed this to fucking happen because you wrung your fucking hands and didn't like how the system played out. And I want to apologize for the last time I was up here, Steve. I did not word what I was trying to get across properly. I conveyed it in a manner that was completely disrespectful, not only to the conversation, but also to the subject at hand. And forgive me for doing so. And I have actually went back and learned how to approach that subject more meaningfully and also more concisely.
Thank you for modeling. So for men who are watching, thank you for modeling what we expect. It's not that difficult to be accountable. I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate you very much.
Love you, Steve.
Be safe out there, my dude. You too. Take care. It's accountability, man. You learn from your fucking mistakes. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. It's just not that hard. Shane's like, fuck, I didn't approach that. I fucked up. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to do it publicly. He could have messaged me in private. He could have sent me a DM. He could have sent me a Discord message. Nope. I'm going to stand up in front of 1,500 people. I'm going to own my fucking shit. You're a good man. Appreciate you. He's right, though. 240,000 people. I don't want to go down the road about, sure, there's all kinds of nefarious activity related to the 2024 election. We still know that voter turnout when the time came was less. We know that. So we can go back in time and we can revisit that and we can complain about it. The question is, what do we do now? And I'd like to remind people that I'm angry about lack of voter participation, in case you haven't heard. So get busy, please. Toffee, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you, Steve. I just listen to you every morning on my drives to work, and I happen to have off today. So I was wondering if you would allow me to give an example of how people can do something in their community that worked in our community, because I know a lot of people listening are thinking, what can I actually do? What's tangible that will make a difference in this gigantic problem? So would you allow me to explain what we did?
Please.
Okay, so back in, I want to say like 2017, we started getting people moving into our small town community of 35,000 who were heavily MAGA from I live in Wisconsin, by the way. And I grew up in a blue state. It's always been a blue state. And then all of a sudden it went purple and now it's red. And I noticed it was a lot of out of state, out of town people moving into our city and trying to take over our school boards and our local government. And I don't know that it was a organized network or anything. It was just something we noticed. And they kept protesting at our school board because of the masks through COVID-19 and whatnot. And they ended up flipping our school board to all MAGA. And my children were both in school.
Guys, I found another pretty ball ring. If you guys want her, don't hesitate. It's like the fish one. Fish back. Smooth the diorama for you, honey co-host. Okay, this is a medium size Christian diorama. It's all about a closure.